Hello everyone, welcome to What If Naruto Survived the World of High School of the Dead movie. Before we start, please go support KING-JEISON for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made, there will be some mistaken characters' gender, but of course Naruto is a male. Chapter 1. Walking down the long and somewhat quiet hallways of the school was a student with a calm and imperturbable face while wearing wireless headphones, and if one paid enough attention, one would faintly hear the kind of music the young man was listening to. As he walked, the boy noticed how the few students, boys or girls, no matter the gender, moved out of his way. At the beginning of school it was always like that, no matter what school he attended, that was always the treatment. At the beginning the young man could not help but wonder about the reason for the distance from his classmates or from everyone in general. That was if not until now that he turned 17 and stopped caring. Although now that he thought about it calmly, maybe the fact that everyone wanted to stay away from him was the fact that he looked like a foreigner than a resident of Japan, and the truth was not entirely false, since in reality his mother was from Russia and his father from Germany. The reason why he now lives in Japan was because of education, and because after his parents died, he wanted to leave Germany and go to other countries. To date, the boy had been to more than 7 countries, although of course he went to the other countries when he was on vacation from school, but when he went to each country, he always tried to learn the languages. But well, we are deviating from the subject at hand, since the boy in question was entering a classroom that immediately fell silent upon seeing him enter. The teacher in question just looked at him and proceeded to speak. "Mr. Uzumaki Naruto, until you finally honor us with your presence," the teacher said with annoyance until he saw his haircut. "Uzumaki, I thought I told you yesterday to get rid of that haircut," said the teacher angrily. "Oh yeah, another thing I may have forgotten to mention is that maybe the students didn't want to get close to him because they thought he was a delinquent thanks to his haircut. Well, maybe the haircut wasn't the right thing, also his way of dressing when he was outside of school, but hey, that was outside of school, everyone had the right to dress how they wanted. NT. This is Naruto without any changes, this is it, and that's it by the way, credits to the creator of these drawings." Naruto simply saw the teacher and with a bored look he simply ignored him and simply went to his position at the window. Giving a sigh, the teacher simply spoke. "Rest assured that if I were the principal of this school, you would be expelled from this school," said the teacher angrily. "If you expelled me, do you really think the soccer or basketball teams would have won so many tournaments? By the way, all the money we win in those tournaments goes to the school," Naruto said calmly, making it impossible for the teacher to refute that since it was true. Since the money won by those teams was divided in half, well, one half was sent to the school funds, the other half was distributed among the teachers, although of course there was an exception. "You little," the teacher tried to say, however Naruto spoke again. "Or do you want me to also mention the intelligence contest?" Naruto suggested calmly, causing the teacher to simply shut up and continue the class. Naruto just remained in his position while he thought about what game to play when he got home, and although it wasn't noticeable, Naruto was a person who had played countless games. The students on the other hand just stared at Naruto for a brief moment until they simply continued listening to the teacher. The students really didn't know anything about Naruto, and when I say nothing, I mean nothing. Well, apart from the fact that he participated in soccer and basketball tournaments along with the intellectual contest and that he was in an art club, apart from that, they didn't know anything about Naruto. But well, I'm getting away from the subject since the bell had just rang indicating the start of the second recess, so getting up from his seat Naruto began to walk through the halls again in search of the teacher in charge of his club, as she was also one of the 2 teachers that he liked. Said teacher was Kyoko-sensei, although the teacher really seemed really strict. If you took the time to get to know her, you could end up liking her. "This is Kyoko." The reason why Naruto was looking for her was simple, since he had to inform her that he had to leave school early for some business, and by the way he was going to deliver a project that she left. But well, right now Naruto was passing by the lockers in which all the students had to leave their shoes, something that seemed stupid to him, since what was the point of buying school shoes if when you were at school, you weren't going to use them? Anyway, thinking about that, Naruto finally saw Professor Kyoko, who was at the entrance gates of the school with other teachers. Deciding to go and finish his task, Naruto began to notice something strange as he approached the group, since at the gate, there was a guy who really did not look well. Raising an eyebrow, Naruto watched as the gym teacher grabbed the guy by the collar of his shirt and then started yelling at him. After that, the guy did something really strange that no one expected. The guy bit the gym teacher. And there are people there where everything went to shit. Everyone was surprised by the man's actions, but however not everything ended there, since a few seconds later, the gym teacher began to convulse until seconds later he remained completely still. Naruto, who had seen the whole scene, stood still without any comment, simply trying to assimilate what had happened while he looked down to try to think better, but his thoughts were destroyed when he heard Professor Kyoko's scream, so looking up Naruto saw how the gym teacher had gotten up and was biting the neck of the other teacher who accompanied them. Now Naruto was confused, what the hell was going on? The gym teacher had gone crazy and had now bitten the jugular of another teacher. In short, that teacher was already dead since in less than 2 or 3 minutes he had already lost all his blood. Naruto then noticed how the teacher began to attack teacher Kyoko, so tensing the muscles in his feet, Naruto ran towards teacher Kyoko's direction and taking a pen out of his pocket, he quickly stabbed the gym teacher in the neck, causing him to stagger back. Standing in front of Kyoko in a state of protection, Naruto noticed how the teacher tried to attack Naruto and Kyoko again, so Naruto quickly approached the teacher and with agility, took the pen stuck in his neck, then took the teacher by the arm and placed him in a key and then stuck the pen in the teacher's head and he stopped moving. What's going on? Why did he suddenly go crazy? Wait, I just killed him, but why don't I feel bad about it? Why didn't I feel anything when I killed him? Naruto asked himself these and other questions until Kyoko yelled at him. Naruto, behind you. Kyoko shouted to Naruto, who acted quickly and rolled to the side, dodging the other teacher who had been bitten in the jugular. What? At this point he should already be dead, in fact he shouldn't even be able to move, Naruto thought in confusion, but again he had to step aside to avoid the teacher, and then with pure instinct, he took out a pencil and stuck it into the head of the now ex-history teacher who fell heavily to the ground. Now that none of the ex-teachers were moving, Naruto looked at Kyoko and then approached her and began to inspect her. Are you okay, Kyoko? Weren't you hurt or bitten? Naruto asked with a somewhat worried voice, to which Kyoko simply denied. I wasn't hurt, Kyoko said, and Naruto nodded. He then looked through the school gate and noticed that there were more people who looked the same, pale and sick. Should we have to take cover in a safe place, said Naruto, who was going to take Kyoko, but the school speakers sounded emitting the voice of a teacher who wanted to say something. This is a notice to all students and teachers present at school. A violent incident has just occurred on the premises, and that is why we ask that everyone evacuate the area calmly. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not, but suddenly the notice was cut off, and everything remained in an uncomfortable silence until screams and pleadings from the teacher who was giving the notice began to be heard until everything fell silent again. Should, Naruto said, knowing what was going to happen next, so taking Kyoko's hand Naruto quickly entered the school and started heading to the infirmary in search of the other person who was bearable and that he liked at school. On the way, the screams of panic from the students and teachers together were not long in coming. Naruto, where are we going? Kyoko asked with concern, who simply said. Let's go to the infirmary to look for Shizuka, Naruto said calmly as he turned around in a hallway and found several students bleeding from wounds on different parts of their bodies. Should it spread so fast, said Naruto, watching the students attack other students. Taking the other way, Naruto went the long way while pushing some students who tried to attack them. Finally, Naruto arrived at the entrance of the infirmary that was closed while some dead students tried to enter. Looking around, Naruto saw a corpse lying in a corner with some feathers sticking out of his pocket. Well, it's time to use the old reliable one, Naruto thought as he quickly approached the corpse and put his foot on its throat so it wouldn't try to bite him. He then took the feathers out of his pocket and stuck them in its head. He then took them out and approached the other dead students who were still trying to get into the infirmary. Once near them, Naruto again did the same with the 2 dead students and then knocked on the door and spoke. Open the door, Shizuka-sensei. It's me, Naruto, said Naruto as footsteps were heard and a student was seen bleeding from one of his arms. Buck, Naruto said and entered the room and saw Professor Shizuka standing next to the medicines. Shizuka, are you okay? Didn't they bite you? Do you have any wounds? She approached the blonde nurse who had a confused face because she didn't know what was happening. I'm fine, Naruto-kun, said Shizuka, calming Naruto, who gave an audible sigh and turned to see the boy in the room. You? Answer, how did you get that wound? Naruto asked the boy, who looked down and answered. I got bitten, said the boy, to which Naruto simply sighed. Shit, Naruto said in a whisper that everyone heard. What? Why is everyone worried? It's just a small wound, Shizuka said, confused. It's not just a wound, Shizuka wanted it. In minutes he could die, and from what I see, he knows it's true, Naruto said calmly, confusing Shizuka. But it's just a bite, I can cure it, Shizuka said again. Listen, Shizuka, look at him, he's already getting pale and sickly, said Naruto, pointing at the boy who was beginning to lose strength and start coughing blood, making Shizuka cover her mouth. Naruto slowly approached the boy and then placed his hand on his shoulder. What's your name? Naruto asked calmly, to which the boy, almost without strength, responded. My name is Kota, said the boy and Naruto nodded. I appreciate it, Kota, you protected one of my friends with everything you copy, and I am truly grateful, that's why I will end your suffering painlessly, Naruto said to the boy, who gave a soft smile and then nodded, and Naruto approached a shelf and took out a scalpel and returned to the boy. Rest in peace, Kota, said Naruto and quickly stabbed the boy in the backside, causing him to stop breathing. Chapter 2. The infirmary was somewhat silent for the simple fact that Naruto was still kneeling in front of a student who was no longer emitting any signs of life while still holding the scalpel on the back of said student's neck. After a few seconds of silence, Naruto sighed and quickly pulled out the scalpel, causing a few drops of blood to splatter everywhere. Turning around to see his favorite teachers, Naruto spoke. I'm sorry you had to see this, but it seems that in the situation we are in and from what I've seen, this was the only way forward, Naruto said to Kyoko and Shizuka, who only saw the body lying on the floor. Seeing this, Naruto just approached the two women and looked up from the corpse. Come on, there's no need for you to keep looking at it, Naruto said, and when the two women recovered from their stupor, they simply nodded and looked away, while Naruto returned to the corpse to hide it somewhere else. Well, Shizuka, there was no one besides Kota in the infirmary, right? Naruto asked Shizuka, who put a finger on her chin in a thinking pose until she finally shook her head. Okay, now we have to be quick and put all the medicines in a bowl, but Naruto was interrupted by the abrupt opening of the infirmary door. This caused Naruto to instinctively throw the scalpel in the direction of the door, and the sound of the scalpel digging into the wall of the sliding door could be heard. Well, my aim is a bit rusty, although it's a relief that it didn't hit the target, said Naruto, seeing a girl with a boken and long dark purple hair, who was surprised that the scalpel almost buried itself in her right eye. Who are you? Naruto asked the girl, who brought her out of her temporary astonishment to turn to look at Naruto and speak while taking a step forward. I'm Sei, but she was interrupted by Naruto, who took another scalpel. Wait, don't move. Before you make another move, I need to be sure of something. I want you to answer honestly, Naruto said, pausing for a moment before asking cautiously as he stared into the girl's eyes. Did they bite you? Or did they scratch you? Naruto asked the girl, who simply shook her head, and Naruto calmly watched her expressions looking for lies until with a sigh he nodded and said. Well, you can come, Shizuka will check you, but again Naruto instinctively threw the scalpel in his hand, hitting the forehead of a zombie that was right behind the purple-haired girl. The girl quickly turned around and saw the corpse fall heavily to the ground while she quickly swung her boken and split the skull of another zombie that appeared behind the one Naruto had killed. Close the door, Naruto ordered quickly, to which the girl quickly obeyed and quickly closed the door, thus preventing other zombies from interrupting. Giving a sigh, Naruto looked at the girl, implying that now he could introduce himself. I am Seiko Busujima, and you must be the famous delinquent Naruto Uzumaki, or that is what the student said before becoming that, said the now recognized as Seiko to a Naruto, who simply nodded and said. Okay, we'll leave your review for another time. Right now, we need to save all the medications we can and get out of this place as soon as possible, Naruto said to the three women in the room. I have a bag on my desk, we can store them, Hali, said Shizuka, to which Naruto nodded and looked at Kyoko and Seiko. Okay, let's pick up the medicines. Also, if you find any sharp or pointed objects, bring them. We'll need them to defend ourselves. Naruto ordered the girls, who nodded and began to pick everything up. As the minutes passed, Naruto couldn't help but immerse himself in his thoughts. What's going on? How did this happen? Naruto asked himself, unable to make sense of what was happening. This is illogical. I mean, the Japanese army should have easily taken charge of this situation. After all, these things are barely a threat, Naruto thought, staring into space. These things are slow, the only way they could be a serious threat is when they are in excessively large groups, however even then the firepower would have to be able to neutralize them, Naruto thought, while he racked his brains trying to solve this enigma until Kyoko called him. Naruto-kun, we've already packed everything, Kyoko said to Naruto, who nodded and cautiously approached the sliding door. Okay Seiko, you cover my back while I open the door, Naruto said to Seiko, who nodded and prepared her boken. Naruto, on the other hand, prepared a kitchen knife in his right hand and some scalpels in his left hand. Inhaling gently, Naruto opened the door slowly until he finally opened it completely and poked his head out to see a group of 5 zombies who seemed not to notice that the door was open. Naruto slowly left and stood in the middle of the hallway and waited for them to notice his presence, however that didn't happen and the zombies simply stayed in their places. This confused Naruto a little, who turned to see Seiko, who was also somewhat confused. Trying something, Naruto took a scalpel with some force. He threw it at the nearest zombie on the shoulder, however the zombie did not react at all. Raising an eyebrow, Naruto looked around and saw a shoe which he took, and with the same force he threw it now at a locker, causing it to make a noise. This seemed to make the zombies react since they quickly approached the locker and began to try to bite the locker. Well, this is something new, Seiko whispered to Naruto, who nodded as she signaled the others to follow him silently. Once away from the group of 5 zombies, Naruto and the others began to walk a little faster while occasionally killing one or another zombie. The others were simply pushed until they reached the point where they were. Well, this is actually easier than I expected, Naruto said, not expecting that they were walking through the hallways with only a little caution. Well, I didn't expect that these things can't actually see us, said Siko as she swung her bokken and smashed the skull of a zombie that did notice her presence. Apparently if we walk a certain distance they are able to notice us, said Naruto as he threw a scalpel and stabbed a zombie in the temple, then passed by him and quickly picked up the thrown scalpel. They certainly notice us if we pass too close, maybe their sense of smell is still intact or is more acute than before, Siko said. You also noticed that in the previous group of 3 zombies, when one instinctively noticed the others also noticed our presence, said Naruto, to which Siko nodded, and just a few seconds later the scream of a girl was heard which alerted Naruto, along with Siko, Shizuka and Kyoko. That was heard nearby, Shizuka said with some fear. It was heard in the teacher's room, said Kyoko, looking in the direction where the scream was heard. Okay, let's go, we have to rescue as many survivors as possible, said Naruto, starting to head in that direction quickly. Passing through some double doors Naruto and the others ran hoping not to be late to rescue the survivors. Turning a corner Naruto opened another door until he noticed the glass door of the other school building, and further to the right, you could see through the large glass window a pink-haired girl next to a boy with glasses, black hair and somewhat obese. I also noticed that the 2 survivors were surrounded by zombies that were trying to bite the boy, but he tried to push him away. Starting to run again to avoid being bitten, Naruto pushed the glass doors hard and threw a scalpel at the zombie that already had its teeth a few inches from the boy's shoulder. Quickly the scalpel was stuck in the back of the zombie's neck, causing it to fall on the fat guy, but not stopping there Naruto and Siko began to kill the group of 8 zombies that were around. A few seconds later Naruto and Siko heard a couple more steps and hoping that they weren't more zombies, Naruto looked out of the corner of his eye at another entrance, hoping that someone else would appear which didn't last long, and Naruto had to sigh in relief when 2 girls appeared and began to help them. After that, killing the zombies was no longer such a difficult task, and they finished killing the zombies without any more approaching, taking the time to see the 2 girls who had just arrived. Naruto had to stifle a sigh when he saw a girl somewhat shorter than the others with tan skin and black hair. Naruto knew her because she liked to go bother him when he was in the art club. For Naruto she was just an acquaintance, and her name was Nagatoro. But from time to time he had to admit that being with her made his days a little more fun, even though she was only going to bother him. The only thing he knew about her was the fact that she was very good friends with Rei Miyamoto, a girl in his grade with orange hair and a good body, who was right next to Nagatoro. Once everything calmed down, Nagatoro saw Naruto and with a surprised voice said, "Senpai. Are you still alive?" Nagatoro asked Naruto. Oh, another thing, Nagatoro was a year younger than Naruto. Sighing, Naruto just gave a wave to Nagatoro, who came out of his stupor and with a big smile, ran and with a jump, grabbed Naruto with a strong hug. "Naruto-senpai, you are still alive, you won't believe how much you had worried me when I looked for you in the art club and couldn't find you," said Nagatoro to Naruto, who opened his eyes slightly when he realized that Nagatoro had actually taken the time to go look for him. Giving a genuine smile, Naruto saw the girl who was still hugging him and patted her head, making Nagatoro see it and blush a little seeing him smile. "Thank you Nagatoro," Naruto said to Nagatoro, who quickly separated from Naruto with pink cheeks. The other girls were also surprised and a little blushed since, like Nagatoro, they had never seen Naruto smile since they met him, and damn, he looked beautiful with that smile on his face. Chapter 3. Everyone remained silent and stunned by the surprise of seeing Naruto smile, which he had stopped doing a while ago, and was now looking at everyone without understanding, until a moan of pain was heard making him turn his gaze towards 2 bodies lying on the floor. Oh shit, it's the boy, Naruto thought, and quickly walked towards him and took the already dead zombie away and held out his hand to the boy. "Are you okay, Kai?" As Naruto spoke he fell silent when he noticed a blood stain on the boy's uniform, and without saying anything and hoping it wasn't what he thought, Naruto took the obese boy's shirt and then opened it. Immediately afterward, a curse was heard since on his shoulder there was a bite, not as open as others, but still a small bite. The boy, realizing what was happening, turned pale, knowing what this meant, and beginning to shake his head, the boy began to get somewhat hysterical. Naruto, on the other hand, just looked at him with pity, and seeing the others, they just turned to look the other way, indicating that they did not want to kill him. So, sighing, Naruto began to walk towards the boy with a knife in his hand until the pink-haired girl crossed his path and tried to convince Naruto not to kill him. "Wait, don't kill him," said the pink-haired girl to Naruto, who was only looking at her. "You know he was bitten, right?" Naruto pointed out to the girl who was going to reply, but Naruto interrupted her. "And I must assume that you have seen what happens if you are bitten," Naruto said to the girl who didn't know what to say. Maybe it won't spread with small doses of the virus," Naruto tried to convince him, who didn't believe that would work. "You were supposedly the smartest female student in this school, and yet you still think that a small dose of the virus won't end up spreading throughout your entire body," Naruto said to the pink-haired girl. "But we have nothing to lose by trying," said the pink-haired girl to Naruto, who sighed. Well, is there any reason why you want to keep him alive? According to what I heard at school, you've never made friends with anyone, Naruto asked the girl, who gave the obese boy a brief glance and then answered. Because he helped me stay alive until this moment, so I want to return the favor, the girl said to Naruto, who simply nodded and said. Fine, we'll leave him alive, but if he becomes one of them, you won't interfere when it comes to finishing him off, Naruto said, receiving a nod of agreement from the pink-haired girl. Well, how about we go into the staff room to be safer? Asked Nagatoro, trying to calm the atmosphere. Moments later everyone was calm inside the teacher's room and Nagatoro, jumping slightly, began to speak. Well, I'm seeing that there are people here that we don't know, so how about we introduce ourselves? First, I'm Hayase Nagatoro, this is Rei Miyamoto, and the delinquent over there is Uzumaki Naruto. Nagatoro introduced Rei and Naruto, who really didn't mind being introduced. I am Seiko Busujima, Seiko said simply. I am Saya Takagi, and this is Kota Hirano, introduced the now identified Saya. Well, we continue, I'm Shizuka Marikawa, and this is Kyoko Hayashi, introduced the always innocent nurse of the group. Shizuka, you know we're teachers. They already know who we are, Kyoko said with a drop of sweat. Well, this seems like a good time to make a plan to follow, said Naruto, drawing everyone's attention. And what do you propose? The main entrance is full of those things, Saya asked, curious to know what Naruto would come up with. Certainly we can't use the main exit, but we won't use that exit, we'll use the back exit where the school buses are, Naruto said as he looked out the window. But that exit is further away, how can we get there? Rei asked. In the time that all this happened, Seiko and I discovered that zombies don't feel or see. The only thing that helps them know where we are is sound and smell, so my plan is the following, said Naruto, starting to tell her a plan that for everyone was a good plan to follow. Well, that's actually a good plan for you, Nagatoro said with a smile, trying to annoy Naruto. The only thing is that we have to leave a cell phone behind, Shizuka said. Not necessarily, we have a lot of corpses outside that don't need their cell phones, Naruto said, implying that they would just take one, and that's it. And who's going to be the one to create the distraction? Seiko asked, preparing to be sent to do the job. Okay, I'll do it, so you just wait about 6 minutes after the alarm is created and then run to the back exit, said Naruto, approaching the exit door while everyone looked at him with concern. While walking he was grabbed by the sleeve of his shirt, making Naruto stop and look at some worried girls. What's wrong? Naruto asked curiously. Promise me, no, promise us that you will come back safely, Nagatoro said to Naruto, who gave them all a smile. I promise, Naruto said, and Nagatoro let go of his sleeve so Naruto could leave the staff room. They'll be fine, Kyoko said, hoping that Naruto will be fine. 7 minutes later. The familiar crunch of a skull breaking was heard as Naruto pulled his kitchen knife from a zombie's head. Okay, I'm here. Now I just have to go in and kill the zombie that's possibly in the room and plant the distraction. Naruto said as he slowly opened the door and revealed 2 zombies. Entering stealthily, Naruto quickly threw a scalpel at the head of the farthest one and quickly stabbed the knife into the forehead of the closest one. Clear, Naruto said to himself, walking calmly to the microphone next to the sound adjustment board that was on a nearby table and began to adjust some things. Okay, now I just have to, but a sound interrupted him and out of pure instinct, he tried to slash with the knife, but he stopped just inches from the neck of a surprised girl that Naruto recognized as one of the popular girls in his class. What are you doing here? Naruto asked curiously to the girl, who only took a step back and then answered. I was hiding in one of those lockers, she replied, pointing to the lockers in the back. Wait, did they bite you? Or scratch you? Naruto asked, to which the girl denied and Naruto continued inspecting the girl for any injuries. Turn around, Naruto ordered, and the girl cautiously did so, and Naruto didn't see any scratches or bites. Well, you look like you're clean, Naruto said as he continued to do what he was doing. The girl watched him for a few more moments until she finally got the courage to ask. What are you doing? He asked, to which Naruto replied. I'm going to make a distraction to get out of this place, Naruto said calmly, to which the girl lit up and said with emotion. Can I go with you? The girl asked, to which Naruto saw her as if she had 2 heads, and this scared the girl, thinking that he was going to leave her. Isn't it obvious? Naruto asked. But I said, the girl but was interrupted by Naruto. Of course I'll take you with me, said Naruto, to which the girl smiled with joy and jumped, giving Naruto a hug, who simply stood there waiting for the girl's happiness to pass. Once the girl calmed down she spoke. My name is Yuki Miku, said the girl, to which Naruto nodded. I am, but was interrupted by the girl. You are Uzumaki Naruto, everyone knows who you are. Well, they knew, Miku said to Naruto, who simply nodded and continued with his own thing. Okay, get ready to run away, Naruto said to Miku, who nodded confused, and Naruto put the cell phone on the microphone. Naruto quickly stood at the door of the room next to Miku. Ready? Naruto asked, but before Miku could answer, a knocking sound on the ventilation ducts began to be heard, causing Naruto and Miku to slowly turn to look in that direction, and with a dull sound, the grate fell to the ground, and slowly long claws began to emerge from the duct, followed by what looked like an arm with exposed muscles. After that, what looked like a head began to appear, but the strangest thing was that the brain was exposed and seemed to have no eyes, along with a mouth with sharp fangs. Miku was about to scream from the fright of seeing that creature so close to them, but Naruto quickly covered her mouth, and with the cold sweat Naruto thought. What the hell is that? Naruto asked himself mentally, and just at that moment the cell phone began to ring, which caused the gym speakers to start sounding loudly with the sound of the cell phone's alarm, and then the monster that was in front of them jumped and returned to the ducts, while it was heard as it moved away in the ventilation ducts in the direction of the gym. Releasing an audible sigh, Naruto stopped covering Miku's mouth, and with a trembling hand Naruto opened the door as quietly as possible, and they began to run to the back doors. On the way, Naruto couldn't feel more exposed than in all the time he had been at school with these zombies, and he felt more unprotected when he realized that the only thing he had to defend himself were two simple scalpels and a kitchen knife. What was he going to do with that? Was he going to play swords with that creature? Leaving that thought behind, Naruto focused on the amino in case a zombie that hadn't arrived at the gym yet appeared, but at that moment Miku tripped and then fell to the floor. Naruto approached her and took her hand and helped her get up quickly to be able to move forward, and that's when Naruto noticed that her foot was hurt. "Can you keep running?" Naruto asked Miku, who shook her head in pain. Nodding at that, Naruto quickly stood in front of her and grabbed her thighs before lifting her up. Miku was actually surprised by the action and couldn't help but give a slight squeal of surprise. She quickly put her hand over her mouth to prevent her from making another noise. "Okay, let's go," said Naruto, starting to run as fast as he could to get to the meeting point quickly. Miraculously, his plan had worked perfectly since they didn't run into any zombies along the way. When Naruto and Miku reached the back doors and opened them, Naruto noticed that the speakers abruptly went silent, which confused Naruto since according to him, there were still 4 alarms left to go off. But thinking about the monster they encountered, Naruto came to the conclusion that since that thing was the only one that could reach the speakers, that thing was the one that destroyed them. But that no longer mattered since Naruto was only a few steps away from the bus, where the girls in a pale and sickly coat were watching them. Once near the bus, the door was opened by Nagatoro, causing Naruto to quickly enter the bus. "Well, I was going to ask what had taken you so long, but seeing Miku, there's no need to ask," said Kyoko, a little jealous of seeing Miku so attached to Naruto. The others were also jealous, but decided not to say anything. "Okay, let's go," said Naruto, giving the order to leave to Kyoko, who was at the wheel. Starting the bus, they were about to leave until they heard the screams of a group of students, along with a teacher who were running in their direction. Naruto, seeing the teacher, frowned along with Rei, making it known that they both didn't like him. Rei was about to say that they should leave them behind, but Naruto spoke with some annoyance. "That teacher, I really dislike him," Naruto said loudly, drawing everyone's attention. "Why?" Siko asked curiously. "That idiot blatantly sabotaged my work and exams, and he also sent those idiots who now follow him to look for trouble with me and then blame me for everything. So what do? We can't leave them here," Shizuka said with concern. Naruto was about to tell them to let them in, but just at that moment, 3 creatures that Naruto and Miku recognized jumped out of the windows and began to massacre the small screaming group. "Shit, what is that?" Rei asked, shocked to see how those creatures killed the students, but again the teacher did not come out alive since he had taken advantage of the death of his students. With a smile he continued running to the bus until his smile faded when he saw how the doors opened and revealed Naruto with Rei, who had looks of contempt. "Let's go," Naruto said, to which Kyoko gladly stepped on the accelerator since she didn't like that guy either. No. Wait," the teacher shouted, but they didn't stop and left him behind to suffer the same fate as his accomplices. Chapter 4. In the streets crowded with zombies, you could see many people fleeing from zombies that no matter how much they ran, they never tired until they caught their prey. And in these streets we can also see a school bus that was moving, trying to avoid the zombies that could inside said bus. Now we find our group of survivors in a somewhat uncomfortable silence since they had purposely left behind one of their former teachers. However, surprisingly, that was not what had them in such an awkward silence. What had them like that was the appearance of the creatures that killed their former classmates and teacher. The silence continued to get more tense until a Nagatoro couldn't stand it anymore and decided to break the ice. "Damn, what a horrible bug we found back there," said an uncomfortable Nagatoro who expected that even though it was her friend Rai, she would continue the conversation. However, to her surprise, the one who continued the conversation was Naruto, and not only that, but he made a joke about the creature. "You can't even say it, that thing looked like a lizard," Naruto said in his typical calm voice, trying to ease the tense atmosphere. "Why, you just made a joke," said Nagatoro, somewhat shocked since Naruto was doing things that she herself couldn't do, and all the time she went to the art club to get even a small reaction out of him. But yet here he sat as impassive and calm as the day she met him, making a joke about a creature that came out of where the devil lost his flip-flop. The others weren't any better either, although they never tried to get a reaction out of him. It was true that they never saw him make a reaction or expression, other than one of tranquility or boredom. Even Kyoko, who was driving, almost lost control of the wheel when she heard him say that. "It's true, he told a joke," said a surprised woman, laughing at Naruto, who only saw them with a poker face. "Is it that surprising?" Naruto asked calmly, to which everyone nodded, and Naruto just sighed and decided to leave the subject aside and talk about more important things. "Well, now that we're out of school, we have to come up with a plan to find their relatives and make sure they're okay," Naruto said, to which those present nodded in agreement. "Okay, now I need you to tell me the place where your relatives could possibly be so I can mark a route to guide us," Naruto said, to which I laughed and stood up to speak. "My father may be a policeman, he may be at the police station," I said, laughing at Naruto, who became thoughtful. So a policeman. I'm more than sure that all the policemen from all the stations have been mobilized to intercept the zombies or to calm the civilians. However, it might be a good idea to go to the station to equip ourselves with weapons." Naruto thought about the possibilities and then nodded and spoke. "Okay, do some of you have any family members before you arrive at the police station?" Naruto asked, to which Nagatoro spoke. "My sisters were on vacation, so they should be at home," Nagatoro said with concern for his sisters. "And where exactly is your house?" Naruto asked. "It's on Asakusa Avenue, house 230, Nagatoro said to Naruto, who nodded and looked at the others in search of someone who might say another place, but they just denied, indicating that either they didn't have family or their houses were far away. "Well, my parents will probably be fine at the mansion, so we don't have to worry too much, besides it's a little further than the police station," said Saya. "I don't have any family, but I would like to go to my best friend's house to see if she's okay, even though she's hardly ever at home," Shizuka said with a finger on her chin. "Okay, just tell me where your friend's house is," Naruto said, to which Shizuka nodded. "His house is located on Shiyoda Avenue, house 175, said Shizuka. "Well, that's further than the police station, but not that far, so we can stop by after looking for Nagatoro's sisters and Rei's dad," said Naruto, to which everyone nodded. Suddenly a loud cough was heard that alerted Naruto and made him turn to see an emaciated Kota. Naruto slowly approached the boy and placed a hand on his shoulder and then asked him. "Kota, right?" Naruto asked, to which the boy nodded slowly. "I'm not going to lie to you, you don't look good at all, and believe me when I tell you that I really wouldn't want to do this, but the time will come when you become one of them and you will endanger those of us here," Naruto said calmly, to which Kota simply gave a dying smile. "He said hoarsely with a little blood coming out of his ears and eyes. Naruto nodded and was about to stab his brain, however an object or something hit the bus from the outside, causing the bus to shudder. "Shit, what was that?" Kyoko asked, somewhat scared since she was the one driving, but Rei's scared voice alerted Naruto. "At the window, it's that thing again." I screamed and laughed, scared, pointing to the window. Naruto quickly turned around to find the sight of one of those creatures trying to enter the bus. "Shit, Nagatoro, pass me the baseball bat," Naruto said to Nagatoro, who without thinking threw the bat to Naruto, who caught it and with all the force he had, hit the monster in the brain, causing him to let out a shriek. However, before falling, the monster stuck out an abnormally long tongue and wrapped itself around Naruto's arm. Naruto cursed his luck, but before he could do anything else, a dying Kota grabbed the knife that Naruto had placed near Saya and then threw himself out the window, holding onto the monster tightly. Before making what would be his last move, he looked at Naruto and Saya. "Thank you for letting me live until my last moment," he said, and without further ado, he stabbed the knife into the monster's brain, who screamed in agony and quickly loosened his grip on Naruto to finally let go and leave a Kota behind. Naruto just stood there looking at where Kota used to be and giving an audible sigh. Naruto just gave a mental thank you to the now possibly dead boy. "Are you okay?" Siko asked Naruto while putting a hand on his shoulder, to which Naruto just looked at Siko and then took his school vest and took it off to then see his arm and only show that it was slightly red from the strong grip of the monster and also some of the monster's slime. "Okay, this might be alarming," Naruto said, to which Siko and the others raised an eyebrow. "What are you talking about?" Siko asked Naruto, who just kept talking. "Right now we don't know if the slime can enter through my pores and later infect me, so if I present a symptom don't doubt it," Naruto said to Siko, who tensed her body because of what he said, since, although she had a kind of ferret when killing at this moment, she didn't want to kill Naruto since in the short time that she knew him, she really came to like him. "And I don't," Siko tried to say, but Naruto interrupted her. Please Siko, the last thing I want is to put you in danger, Naruto said to Siko, who after a few seconds that felt like an eternity nodded, and Naruto calmly sat in the seat next to the driver. How are you feeling, Naruto-kun? Kyoko asked with concern, to which Naruto just said. I'm fine for now, Naruto said calmly, to which Kyoko just nodded and continued with her job at the wheel. 20 minutes later. Well, Nagatoro's house is supposed to be 3 blocks away, Naruto said, indicating to Kyoko, who nodded and continued on her way. Passing the 3 blocks, Nagatoro quickly pointed to his house while impatiently warning them to approach. Oh, senpai. Nagatoro pointed to a normal 2-story house that was relatively intact. Naruto nodded as he approached Siko to tell her. Okay Siko, I need you here to take care of everyone from any zombie or person who has gone crazy, Naruto said to Siko, who nodded. Crazy person? I asked and laughed curiously. In these panic situations, there are people who can't stand the tension of the situation and go crazy wanting to kill other people, Naruto said to the girls, who only nodded at this information. Now Nagatoro, I need you to tell me the names of your sisters and any unique aspects they have, Naruto said, to which he quickly responded. Well, my older sister is called Geimo, she has loose orange hair somewhat disheveled, and my other sister is called Yashi, and she has hair of yellow tending to orange, and it is always combed in 2 pigtails, Nagatoro described to Naruto, who nodded. Okay, I'm going to look for Geimo and Yo's. Wait, one of your sisters is called Yashi, like Mario's green lizard, said Naruto, making everyone present sweat. Really senpai, Nagatoro said to Naruto with an impassive face. He just got off the bus and headed to the door of the house. But before taking the door handle, Naruto quickly noticed that the door had already been forced, which meant that an intruder was in the house. And if the person or people who are possibly in the house are intelligent, they will have already noticed that we arrived, and most likely they will ambush me as soon as I open this door. These were Naruto's thoughts as he stealthily took out a scalpel and turned his gaze towards the girls who were looking at him curiously. Once he saw them, Naruto signaled them not to make any noise and to stay covered. After that, Naruto did not open the door and, making the least noise possible, passed under the front window and went to the side window that was in the kitchen. Opening the window silently, Naruto entered and then leaned on his back right next to the entrance of the kitchen, and that had a view of the front door. Peeking out, Naruto noticed that there were indeed 3 men at the entrance. One was leaning next to the door with a revolver in his hand, another was hidden behind the stairs with a shotgun, and finally, the last one was in the living room while tying up 2 girls that Naruto recognized as Nagatoro's sisters. Sighing, Naruto quickly carefully took the kitchen knives that were in the sink, and giving a sigh and hoping not to fail, Naruto finally left the kitchen with his right hand already extended back. The first one to notice his presence was the one behind the stairs. However, before he could warn his companion, Naruto had already thrown the knife that was centimeters from the guy's forehead and followed it, burying itself up to the handle. The second, however, noticed movement out of the corner of his eye, so turning around he saw Naruto throwing his second knife, which quickly lodged in his chest, thus splitting his ribcage until reaching his heart. Naruto quickly dashed forward and grabbed the now dead guy before he made any kind of noise and quickly pulled out the knife, then calmly went to the third guy who was distracted tying up Nagatoro's sisters, who noticed him and looked at him with pleading looks for him to provide them with some kind of help. However, they did not digest anything since Naruto made the universal sign to them not to make noise while he listened to the things the guy said. I can't wait to taste your bodies tonight, the guy said lustfully to the girls who just looked on in fear. Oh, but don't worry, even though I'm 50 years old, it doesn't mean I don't know how to satisfy you, said the guy, while Naruto was already behind the man. Are you sure? Because I honestly don't think you have the strength to even hold on for 1 minute, Naruto said to the guy who continued talking. Haha, well, you'll see tonight when I leave them breathless, said the man. However, his voice faded when he noticed that the voice that had spoken to him, he never knew, so trying to make an effort to look back, he couldn't turn his head when he noticed how Naruto grabbed him by the forehead, leaving his throat exposed, and with a fluid cut he cut his throat. Naruto then released the guy and let him fall to bleed out. The girls could only see the dead man and then look up and see their savior, who approached them to remove the rags from his mouth. Very well, I assume you are Geimo and Yashi, right? Naruto asked the 2 girls, who nodded cautiously. Yeah, how do you know about us? Geimo asked Naruto, who was untying them. Well, I'm Uzumaki, Naruto, and well, you could say I'm a, but he was interrupted by Yashi. So you are the famous senpai that Toru-chan talks so much about, said Yashi to Naruto, who just nodded. Well, I'm Nagatoro's senpai, said Naruto while giving Geimo and Yashi a hand. It seems they are not scared by the deaths of those guys, said Naruto looking at the girls who just denied. Well, actually, if we're scared, it's just a surprise that a high school student was able to kill 3 guys, Geimo said, to which Naruto nodded. Okay, come on, we don't have time, we have to go, said Naruto, but before leaving Naruto said. Wait, before we go, help me take these guys' weapons and as much food as we can, after all, it's more useful to us than a corpse, he said, to which they nodded. 10 minutes later Naruto and the two girls were now leaving the house with a shotgun, a revolver, a 1911 pistol, a considerable amount of ammunition, and a few bags full of food. Quickly entering the bus the two girls were received by the strong hug of Nagatoro who looked worried. Okay Kyoko, please let's go to the next location, Naruto said to Kyoko, who nodded and accelerated, then left the place. Chapter 5. Driving through the streets now filled with zombies were a group of favorite survivors. About 15 minutes had passed since Naruto had rescued Nagatoro's sisters, and the atmosphere on the school bus was more cheerful and bearable, due to Geimo and Yashi's constant jokes directed at Nagatoro about insinuations with Naruto and her. Also because of the fact that having rescued Nagatoro's sisters was a small hope that they could find their relatives or friends. For the moment everyone was calm and talking to each other while Naruto inspected the newly obtained weapons. While doing this Naruto had to smile and said mentally. In the faces of those who said that video games wouldn't teach me anything, Naruto said to himself as he began to disassemble the 1911 pistol to clean it and make it work more smoothly. While doing this the conversations diminished until only the clinking of the iron pieces of the gun could be heard. Naruto looked appreciatively at all the pieces and springs that were in front of him, so as he began to clean the pieces a curious rubber decided to speak. Well, it seems you are an expert in the use of these things, said the orange-haired sister of Nagatoro to Naruto who continued cleaning while responding to my comment from Geimo. Well, throughout my life I have played many video games, be it shooters, racing, survival, arcade, etc., and that is why now thanks to those games, it is possible for me to do this, said Naruto as he finished assembling the gun. Wow, that's interesting, I never thought I'd say this, but I'm really glad to have a geek in our group, said Yashi in his typical mocking voice. Raising an eyebrow Naruto turned to look at Nagatoro and asked him. Is everyone in your family mocking by nature? Naruto asked the brunette who was a little offended. Hey, how rude. We don't always make fun of everyone, just the ones we like, she said the last thing in a whisper that was only heard by her sisters, who felt a blush on their faces. What did you say? Naruto asked, curious to know what she said last, but to everyone's amusement, the three sisters denied their words furiously with their faces flushed. Letting this little scene pass, Naruto noticed that they were already a few meters away from the police station, so standing up, Naruto placed the shotgun on his back and took the 1911 pistol. Okay, let's go, Siko, Rai and I. The others stay on the bus, Naruto ordered as he looked around to see if anyone had a complaint. When he saw that no one had a complaint, Naruto nodded. Okay, hey Geimo, take the revolver, you're going to be the one who defends the others, so if a zombie comes in, you shoot him in the head, of course, that's if it's necessary, if not, well, don't waste bullets, said Naruto as he closed the bus door and started walking to the doors of the police station, being followed by Siko, who laughed. Entering the station, Naruto turned to Rai and decided to tell her how they were going to look for his father. Okay, first of all, don't shout your father's name because that will alert the zombies. Second, we won't separate because that's always a bad idea. And lastly, I'll be alert to any movement or sound, no matter if it's through the ventilation ducts. Naruto said to a laugh, who nodded, and Naruto led the way. Most likely we won't find his dad if the silence and the death aura are any indication, Naruto thought as he walked through the hallways, occasionally finding bloodstains or zombie bodies, some civilians and others Miami security guards. Walking as quietly as possible, the group of three continued straight down the long corridor until they reached the end where there were double doors and another corridor to the right, stealthily opening the doors. Naruto knew it was the station's dining room which was completely empty. Seeing his two companions, Naruto shook his head as he closed the doors again and they began to walk down the hallway to his right where all the desks should be where homicide cases were carried out, among other things. This information was given by Ray who, following Naruto's orders, remained alert. Arriving at the doors of the place, Naruto again proceeded to slowly open the doors and poke his head out to see if there was any zombie type. To his annoyance, there were two zombies wandering aimlessly in the large room. Seeing his two companions, Naruto proceeded to inform his companions of the situation. Well, there are only two zombies, so to make this faster I will take care of the one on the right and Siko the one on the left. Laugh if you see that Siko has problems, you can intervene to give her a hand, Naruto planned to the two girls who nodded at the plan. Nodding, Naruto came out next to Siko and walking stealthily Naruto approached his target who remained oblivious to what would happen to him, and a few seconds later, once behind his target, Naruto quickly took out what would be his last scalpel and quickly stabbed it into the zombie's head, who quickly fell to the ground being cushioned by Naruto, who took him under the hands so that he would not make so much noise. Once his task was done, Naruto turned to look in the direction of Siko, who had just broken her target's skull, and Siko turned to look at Naruto while nodding. So giving the signal to Rei to come out, she approached them as quickly and stealthily as possible. "Okay, I have to say that I really don't think your father is here," Naruto said, to which I laughed. She was going to protest, but Naruto interrupted her. "However, I'm not saying he's dead, what most likely happened is that all the police were mobilized," Naruto said to the girls. "So what? We're not going?" I asked and laughed at Naruto, who denied it. "We still have to look for something else," said Naruto, to which Siko and Rai raised an eyebrow. "And that would be?" Siko asked curiously. "You'll see," Naruto said simply as he began to guide the girls. Returning the way they came, Naruto and the girls arrived at the main hall. Once there, Naruto looked at the signs up in the hallways until he read one that said changing rooms and headed to that place. "Why are we going to the locker room?" I asked and laughed. "Well, normally people quickly thought that a simple place to change," said Naruto, entering a normal dressing room, but Naruto focused on a door that was in the corner of the room. "However, what it really has inside is a complete armory," said Naruto as he opened the door and revealed a complete room with different types of weapons, blades, vests, even katanas. The two girls had their mouths open. "Well," in case I laughed, since Siko simply had her eyes open in surprise until a doubt came to mind. "But why are there so many weapons? Shouldn't all the police officers have taken them?" Siko asked Naruto, who was taking a bunch of black bags out of some drawers at the end of the hallway. "Well, I'm surprised too. At the moment I have two deductions. First, the police didn't see the zombies as a threat at all and decided to go with the standard revolvers they give them at the beginning, or they simply had more weapons than they could use," Naruto deduced, while he saved all the weapons and ammunition he could. "Now I need you to help me." Siko keeps the blades and katanas, while Rai keeps the bulletproof vests and leaves 3 for us to put on, Naruto said to the girls, who proceeded to do as instructed. A few minutes later, Naruto and the others already had most of the weapons stored in 3 bags, the ammunition in another bag and the vests in another. In total there were 5 bags that they had to carry. "Okay, let's go," Naruto said to the girls, who quickly began to follow him. The path was relatively easy, and instead of relieving Naruto, that was worrying him. The reason? Well, the reason is because in situations like this, things never turn out the way you really planned them, so this was one of the reasons why he was alert to any inconvenience or noise. Once they arrived at the main room where the exit doors were, the group of 3 began to walk towards the exit. However, a noise that Naruto recognized from when he was at school alerted him and made him stop dead in his tracks. This was noticed by the girls, who looked at him with curiosity. "Are you okay, Naruto?" I asked, laughing curiously, while Naruto's mind used all his neurons to formulate a plan to follow to get out of the situation they were about to find themselves in. Shit, if we run to the bus they will catch us, and not only that, we will put the others in danger, and even if we manage to enter the bus, it is most likely that they will cling to the bus and end up entering the bus. Although we have weapons for each one of us on the bus, I can deduce that I am the only one on the bus with some experience in using them. The only way that is safer for them is to create a distraction to keep those things away," Naruto thought frantically, until he finally calmed down and saw how 3 of those creatures fell from the ventilation ducts that slowly began to head towards them. Turning to the petrified girls, Naruto spoke. "Go to the bus, I'll distract you, and don't worry, we'll meet at Shizuka's friend's house," Naruto said to the 2 girls, who just looked at him in disbelief. "But Naruto, do you really think you can distract those things and get out of them alive?" Siko asked with some concern palpable in her voice. "Don't worry about me, remember that I'm at risk of turning into one of them," said Naruto as he looked ahead at the creatures that were approaching cautiously. "Now, go away," Naruto shouted to the girls, who just nodded as they took the bags Naruto was carrying and left the place. Naruto just smiled nervously as he raised his gun to aim at the first and then pulled the trigger. However, to Naruto's surprise, the creature jumped to his right, dodging the bullet that was heading in his direction. This surprised Naruto, who saw how the creatures began to accelerate their walk until it became a race behind Naruto, who also began to run through the corridors of the police station while being followed by those creatures. Looking back, Naruto saw the 3 creatures chasing him with bloodlust radiating from them. Cursing under his breath, Naruto quickly looked in front of him to see something to distract them until he noticed a fire extinguisher on the ground scared to his right, so aiming for the fire extinguisher, Naruto ran as fast as he could until he finally passed by the fire extinguisher. Advancing about 3 more steps, Naruto fired 3 shots, of which 2 hit the target, causing the fire extinguisher to explode and distract the creatures that stumbled upon it. Without a patch to see if the creatures were dead or something like that, Naruto opened the double doors where the pile of desks were and where he had been before, running towards the pile of windows that was on the other side on the wall. Naruto ran. Let's see if the structure of the edificio leaves a space right next to this room. This means that the police parking must be there. I hope I'm not wrong, Naruto thought as he ran and jumped through the windows and revealed a parking lot that would be almost empty if it weren't for the police cars that were at the back of the parking lot. Using all the energy he could gather, Naruto went to the nearest car to try to open it. However, it was closed, so without thinking for a moment, Naruto threw his fist at the car's window and opened the door, then uncovered the lower part of the steering wheel and began to use the cables to start the car that refused to start. Looking up, Naruto saw the three creatures coming out of the window where Pat came out and then starting to head towards where he was. Trying with greater vigor, Naruto continued with his attempts to get the car to start until finally the damn jalopy started and Naruto quickly put it in reverse and then accelerated forward in the direction of the creatures while running over one and crushing its head. The other two, on the other hand, grabbed the top of the car and began to dig their claws into the roof. Throwing another curse, Naruto stepped out onto the main street while avoiding another claw that almost destroyed his head and quickly took the shotgun he still had with him and then quickly aimed at the hole where the creature had just pulled out its claw and waiting for the creature to peek out some of its parts, Naruto had to hold back a smile when he saw the creature poke its head out and without a microsecond of waiting Naruto pulled the trigger causing the shotgun to fire and then blow the creature's head off, sending it flying upwards from the impact and then falling to the pavement, leaving it behind. One less, one more to go, said Naruto as he listened to the last one move, taking this time to quickly reload his gun. Naruto said, slamming on the brakes caused the creature above him to move forward. Naruto was planning to run him over like he had the first one, but not everything goes the way you want and the creature ended up holding on to the front of the car, barely holding on with its claws to avoid falling under the car. Accelerating more, Naruto raised his gun and began to shoot at the creature who did everything possible to dodge his bullets, however only two were able to accept in the chest and shoulder of the creature, but this was not enough to kill it. Seeing that he had no more bullets, Naruto decided to accelerate and crash into a bar that was in front of him until the entire police car was inside the premises, slammed against a wall with the creature crushed from the waist down between the car and the wall. Opening the car door that he couldn't hold on to and fell to the ground, and Naruto came out with only a few scratches and blood coming out of a tear on his forehead. He approached to a safe distance where the creature wouldn't reach him if he was still alive. When he was in front of the creature, Naruto noticed that he lightly kicked something, causing him to look down and see a bottle of vodka. Naruto stared at him for a while until he finally bent down and took it in his hand and then opened it and took a large gulp straight from the bottle and threw it at the creature's head, causing it to break and making the creature react and begin to move hysterically. Walking behind the bar, Naruto grabbed a lighter as he threw it towards the creature, lighting it on fire, causing it to scream in pain until it fell dead and Naruto let out a sigh and started to leave, if not before saying a few words. This is how it's done in Mother Russia. Chapter 6. Sneaking like a mere inaudible shadow through the ruins of smoking or simply collapsed houses, either due to people's madness or simply an accident due to the intervention of zombies. Well, in those ruins there was a Naruto who was trying to advance as stealthily and quickly as possible to meet up with his group, who would surely be at the house of Shizuka's best friend. However, if Naruto continued at this pace, he would end up arriving at dawn tomorrow at best, or at noon at worst. You're probably wondering why Naruto didn't just take a car and get out of there. Well, the reason is because most of the things were unusable due to crashes, or someone had already gotten there and took the ones that were still usable. Taking a quick look at his arm where it was disgustingly licked by the creature on the Naruto bus, he noticed that it was still red. This was strange, since it had been at least 8 hours since that thing had licked him. That in itself was already strange, since no matter how small the dose injected into his body was, it would not last more than 2 hours to begin to take effect on his body, but that was not the case, since not only did he not feel any effects of fever or paleness, but he felt in his best physical condition, and although it is strange, he felt much stronger and more agile. Stopping to think about that, Naruto continued on his way until he reached a window in one of the many houses around him, ignoring for the moment what could be said was the family that lived in said house. Naruto looked out to the side of the window to make sure there was no threat. Noticing a single short zombie enters the house he was in and the window that was in the other house, Naruto was about to advance towards the other house, however the slight sound of a step next to the sound of the fabric rubbing against each other alerted him, causing Naruto in a fluid movement to take out his pistol with silencer included and point his pistol right at the forehead of a woman, and however Naruto was not surprised to see that he also had a pistol pointing at his head. Neither of them said anything for a few long and tortuous seconds where neither stopped pointing at the other. Naruto took this time to drop a drop of sweat, seeing the cliché scene from a movie in which two people pointed their respective guns at each other, but leaving that aside, Naruto studied the woman in front of him, who seemed to have distinctive Chinese features. He also noticed that she was wearing a red dress, making her look like she had just come out of a dinner party at some mansion. Her hair was black and short. Finally, the woman seemed to be at least 23 or 24 years old. Being the first to try to break the tension between the two, Naruto asked the question he had in mind. "And you are?" Naruto asked calmly to the woman who showed no sign of disturbance. "I'm Ada Wong and I'm here to stop the Umbrella Corporation from catching you," said the woman in front of him. Naruto just raised an eyebrow in confusion at the mention of the Umbrella Corporation and why said corporation was jazzing him. "The Umbrella Corporation? Are you talking about the US company that makes medicines?" Naruto asked in confusion, to which the woman replied. "That's just the cover of what they really do in the shadows, after all, they are the ones who release the G virus all over the world," said Ada, making Naruto open his eyes slightly at this information. "But why are you looking for me?" "I'm just a 17-year-old student," Naruto said curiously, to which Ada simply took out a small device with a slight pistol grip shape with a screen on it, pointing it at Naruto who began to scan it until it finally finished and marked a result that Ada quickly showed to Naruto, who saw that the device showed that he was infected with the virus. "That's the reason, surely you've already realized that more time has passed than expected since you were infected and yet you still don't feel a single symptom, but in exchange you feel stronger and your senses are sharper," Ada explained to Naruto who remained silent and Ada continued speaking. "And that's why the Umbrella Corporation wants to capture you, so they can extract the virus from you," Ada said to Naruto, who raised his eyebrow again. "But why extract the virus from me? I mean, won't you get the same virus that they created?" Naruto asked Ada, who answered. "That would be true if it weren't for the fact that your immune system, instead of trying to annihilate the virus, made it adapt to your body in the process, slightly replacing components of the virus itself so that it better adapts to your body. In short, instead of seeing the virus as an enemy, your system assimilated it as a potential ally, converting the G virus into the T virus," Ada finished explaining to Naruto, who just stared at her until he spoke. "The last part was unnecessary since I understood everything you were telling me," said Naruto as he stopped pointing his gun at Ada, and she did the same while shrugging her shoulders and looking at him curiously, which was noticed by Naruto. "What?" Naruto asked Ada, who proceeded to speak. "I'm intrigued as to why you're not in a state of hysteria while denying that you're being pursued by possibly the most powerful corporation in the world," Ada said to Naruto, who simply looked at her and sighed. "Well, since I was little, I always took things calmly, and it's not that I wasn't surprised by all this trouble that came my way, it's just that that's how I am," said Naruto, thinking, a problem. Ada just watched until she simply shrugged at the attitude of the teenager in front of her. Turning around, Naruto was about to leave through the window until he was interrupted by Ada, who spoke to him. "Where do you think you're going?" "We have to go to the base so you're safe," Ada said to Naruto, who stopped and turned to look at Ada, who was still looking at him. "Where am I going?" "Well, I'm going to meet up with the rest of my group again," Naruto said, referring to his classmates and teachers. "I don't think so, you're more important than those women you were traveling with," Ada said to Naruto, who looked at her curiously. "Oh? So you already know who the members of my group are," Naruto said, seeing Ada nod. "Of course I know who they are, we've been monitoring you since we discovered your situation," Ada said to Naruto, who nodded and with a smile said. "Oh well, never mind, I'm going to look for my friends," said Naruto. "If you leave, I won't follow you to protect you," said Ada, hoping that Naruto would get cold feet and change his mind. "Oh well then, it was a pleasure to meet you, Ada Wong, now if it's not too much trouble I'll leave," said Naruto as he jumped out the window and started walking, while he shot with his silenced pistol at a zombie child that was in his way, and then he entered through the window of the other house, thus leaving Ada standing in absolute silence as she sighed and took a suitcase, something long that was hidden behind a wall, and then began to follow Naruto. 25 minutes later. "Why are you following me? I thought you weren't going to protect me," Naruto said to Ada, who was behind him as they evaded another group of zombies that were wandering the streets. "Well, the mission is the most important thing, so since you are the mission I can't leave you alone," Ada said to Naruto, who downplayed what Ada said until he finally stopped and crouched under a window. Following his example, Ada crouched down next to him and saw what Naruto saw and quickly noticed a car almost instantly with just 1 or 2 bumps, and that was all. The only problem was the fact that there were about 15 zombies around, so turning to see his new companion, Naruto spoke. "I know you're in a hurry to have me protected, so how about we take that car over there and quickly go find my companions? We'll pass by a couple more points and then we can go to your base," Naruto said to the secret agent, who remained thinking until she finally nodded. "But how do you plan to take the car?" Ada asked Naruto, who just put his hand in his pants pocket and took out a couple of grenades. Well, they are not as powerful as the military ones, but they will serve to kill a little more than half and leave the rest with broken feet. In case you didn't notice, genius, the zombies are scattered everywhere, said Ada Naruto, who just smiled and said. Just watch and learn, Naruto said as he began to walk without making the slightest noise possible until he headed to another noticeably damaged vehicle that was further away from the one they were going to take, walking as far away from the zombies around him so they wouldn't notice. Naruto finally finished attacking everyone until he finally reached the car. Taking the only zombie near that car, Naruto stuck a knife in his head and then loaded the inert body into the driver's seat and then rested the corpse's head in the middle of the steering wheel, causing the car to start beeping, calling the attention of all the zombies near the area. Escaping from the place, Naruto only had to wait about 2 minutes until the 15 zombies in sight approached the car and about 8 that were not inside also approached, and finally 2 lickers also approached the car. NT. For those who don't know what lickers are, they are the bugs that Naruto encountered in the previous chapters. Once they were all there, Naruto removed the safety pin from the grenades and with precision threw it directly at the car window. A few seconds later, it detonated, consequently, the gasoline in the car also generated a stronger explosion. Once the explosion was over, Naruto and Ada left the places where they were hiding and regrouped in the car they were going to use to leave that place. See, I had it all figured out, Naruto said as he opened the car door and took out the body of a dead man on the driver's side and was about to get in, but Ada grabbed him by the shoulder. Why don't you leave this to the adults? Ada said as she got in the driver's side and started the car. Are you serious? You just saw me kill a group of 23 zombies along with 2 of those mutant lizards, and you still think I can't drive, Naruto said to a smiling Ada who didn't respond and instead opened the passenger door. Resigned, Naruto simply got into the car and the 2 of them went in the direction of looking for their companions. Chapter 7. Running at 120 km per hour were Naruto and Ada in the direction indicated by Naruto, who was calmly watching the road. Turning his gaze slightly, Naruto saw Ada, who continued driving with a somewhat impassive look, but if you paid more attention, you would notice the slight hint of annoyance on her face. The reason? Naruto didn't know, he only knew that Ada started acting like that after he cleared the place to be able to take the vehicle. Not taking it so seriously, Naruto simply gave her another indication which consisted of turning right. Ada simply turned and continued on the path until in front of them, there were 3 zombies who turned to see them thanks to the sound of the car's engine. Thinking that they would simply ignore them, Naruto didn't worry about it until he saw how Ada began to lower the car window and waiting for the 3 heads of the 3 zombies to be aligned, Ada fired, causing the bullet to end up killing all 3 in one shot. Naruto didn't understand the action because they could have simply evaded them and continued on their way. Of course, that was until Ada turned to look at him with a smug smile, and this small action made everything fit for Naruto. This has to be a joke, is she a child? Naruto asked himself mentally upon learning that what she was doing was a competition to see who could make the best death. Seeing that Ada was still looking at him, Naruto simply looked back at her with a poker face. Downplaying the situation, Naruto looked back to the front when, right out of the corner of his eyes, he caught a couple of movements a little far away to the left of Ada, who didn't notice it. So turning his gaze in that direction, Naruto watched the houses go by until right in the middle of 2 houses, Naruto noticed a blur of at least 6 lickers moving at the speed of the car. Sighing at the insistence of those things, Naruto couldn't help but sigh and mentally wonder who the brainless sick person was who came up with those things. With a sharp look, Naruto began to open the window of the car's roof, calling the attention of Ada, who didn't know the reason why Naruto did this, so with doubt in her eyes, Ada proceeded to ask him. What do you think you're doing? Ada asked Naruto, who just gave her a look and said. Brace for impact, Naruto said as he pumped the shotgun and went out the window, just as one of those creatures jumped in their direction. However, the creature was greeted with a shower of lead and gunpowder, courtesy of a Naruto with a half smile on his face. Ada, on the other hand, tried to quickly adapt to the situation they were in, while taking out her pistol and shooting another man in the shoulder, who came out from a strategic place behind a garbage container. Firing his last shotgun bullet, Naruto had to frown when he saw that the latter was once again dodged by the licker, who jumped onto the roof of one of the houses and continued his pursuit. Taking out his gun, Naruto looked at the bullets that remained and then sighed when he saw that there were only 4 left. Aiming at the lickers, Naruto shot and frowned more when he saw that the 4 bullets hit different parts of the body. However, that did not affect the creatures in the slightest if we consider that they did not slow down even a little. Well, it seems that if the shot doesn't go towards their head, they won't die, Naruto informed Ada, who realized that they were out of ammunition, so with a little effort, Ada reached for the briefcase she had with her and then opened it with her free hand and took out an assault rifle with 6 magazines inside the briefcase and 1 already loaded. Giving it to Naruto, he just looked at Ada with an inquisitive look which was returned by a look of confusion from Ada. What? Ada asked, feeling uncomfortable with Naruto's gaze. You don't seem like the type of agent who carries large caliber weapons with you, Naruto responded to Ada's confusion, who only pouted at him. Taking the rifle, Naruto became serious while again aiming at the lickers who were waiting for the right moment to jump and kill the two who were driving the car. Aiming with precision, Naruto released a burst of 4 shots at the first aberration that tried to dodge the 4 imperceptible projectiles. However, the only thing that did was make the bullets hit him in the air, causing the force of the impact to deflect him and crash head-on into a wall of any house, thus destroying his head and many bones, if we count the audible crunch that was heard. "One less, 3 more to go," said Naruto as he fired 4 bursts at another licker who jumped towards the car. However, he received 10 shots to the chest and 6 shots to the head. Without giving the creatures time to think, Naruto emptied the cartridge in the last 2, they received some shots in parts that did not affect them. Reloading as fast as he could, Naruto aimed again at the lickers, who began to jump and move erratically in various directions. This surprised Naruto as it showed that they were not just stupid creatures looking to kill for fun, it showed that they were intelligent and could adapt to the situations they found themselves in. Ada, did you have any idea that these things aren't that stupid?" Naruto asked Ada, who saw the scene and shook her head. "This wasn't in the mission instructions," Ada said, also surprised. "Well, if Battlefield and countless hours of playing COD with lag taught me anything, it's how to predict where the enemy will be," Naruto said to himself as he began to calmly look at the creatures. This statement was not ignored by Ada, who looked at him in the rearview mirror and asked him in a tone of disbelief. "You're shooting a German HK-416 rifle with a laser sight, large caliber, adjustable stock and extended magazine, while basing yourself on video games," Ada said in disbelief to Naruto, who shrugged his shoulders. "Well, that's what's kept me alive so far," Naruto said disinterestedly to Ada, who just sighed and continued driving. Naruto just waited until he finally had his chance and launched a burst of 16 shots at a licker that made a sporadic jump, so calculating the time in which the creature would stay in the air and the shape of the creature's body, the only thing Naruto had to do was shoot where the creature would land and calculate the location of the aberration's head. Letting out a smile as he watched the visors fly everywhere, Naruto didn't notice the last altar creature heading his way. That he was gloating. Noticing it late, Naruto cursed mentally, seeing the creature already halfway, so putting the rifle as a shield, Naruto held back the licker and with effort Naruto directed his hand to a tactical knife that was positioned on his lower back, then with a fluid movement cut off the head of the licker that stopped using force. Looking in several directions to see if there wasn't another one following him, Naruto relaxed when he didn't see any licker, so entering the vehicle, Naruto sat back down and gave an audible sigh. "Well, that was intense," Naruto said calmly while being watched by Ada. "If it weren't for the fact that you're a student and you just said that you're based on video games, I'd say that you're an agent of the Russian Army's Special Forces," Ada said to Naruto, who shrugged. 45 minutes later. "Okay, now turn right and go straight to the house over there," was Naruto's last instruction upon seeing the bus parked in front of a 2-story house. Parking right behind the bus, Naruto and Ada got out of the car and Naruto quickly noticed Siko, who was on the 2nd floor balcony. When she saw him, she couldn't help but smile and quickly went into the house to announce his arrival. Entering the door of the house, Naruto was about to knock on the door, however it was opened and a wave of girls fell on Naruto, who remained calm at all times. Once they hugged him, they all stood up and then took him by one of his feet and dragged him into the house, all while Naruto maintained a calm look. Ada, on the other hand, just watched this with a drop of sweat on her face as she entered the house and locked the door. "Is Naruto okay?" asked a cheerful Kyoko. "You don't know how worried you had us," said Miku. Yes, you don't know how many times Toru-chan asked about your safety," Gamo said, making Nagatoro blush. You say that as if I were the only one, you and Yashi were worried too," said Nagatoro to his sisters, who blushed a little but continued bothering their sister. "Are you okay, Naru?" asked Shizuka while giving Naruto a hug and burying his head in her large breasts. "Hey, what do you think you're doing? Don't you see that you're suffocating him?" Saya said, clearly jealous. "If you let go, you'll kill him," he said, laughing now, supporting the pink-haired girl. It seems to me that you are jealous," said Siko with an amused smile on her face. "And no, what are you talking about? I would never like a criminal like him," Saya said nervously. "See, true," he replied, laughing, trying to lower his blush. That was a low blow," Saya said, Naruto finally leaving Shizuka's breasts while maintaining his calm look. "Well, you really have a unique group," Naruto said, Ada making her presence known. The room fell into a momentary silence until all the girls present asked. "And who are you?" they all asked in unison. "I'm Ada Wong and I'm an agent working for the Johnson Corporation," Ada said to the somewhat confused audience. "Johnson Corporation? I've never heard of anything like that," Kyoko said in a state of shock. And you shouldn't, because this is a corporation formed by several countries, both American, European and Asian. In short, this corporation was formed to reinforce the peace treaty between all countries, Ada informed everyone who nodded in understanding. And what is the reason why an agent of said corporation is here? Saya asked curiously. Ada just sighed a little since she had to give the explanation again of why she was here. You know, I'm going to summarize it as much as I can, said Ada, sighing and proceeding to speak. Your partner was infected by the virus, and instead of turning him into a zombie as you call it, the virus adapted to his system by creating a new virus that instead of harming him helps him. Now the Umbrella Corporation is jazzing him, and that's why I'm here, Ada explained to everyone who remained silent, trying to process what the woman said in front of them. Wait, you mean a corporation is behind Naruto, who knows, to do what just because the virus evolved? I try to clarify things, my nails somewhat shocked. Yes, was Ada's reply. So maybe in any other part of the world the same thing could happen, Siko said calmly. It's not very likely according to reports provided by Russia. Naruto's blood type is AB, the rarest blood type in the world, and from what our spies were able to gather before being captured, was that the Umbrella Corporation had already done tests for the virus with all blood types including AB, explained Ada. But didn't the same thing happen with Naruto? Nagatoro asked. Well, the cells of that blood type were the ones that showed the most defense against the virus, but in the end they gave in, and the Umbrella Corporation didn't really care about it, since it was a 0.04% chance that something like this would happen. In short, Naruto is one of a kind, said Ada with a smile. You say that like I'm an animal, Naruto said with a drop of sweat, to which Ada simply continued smiling. Well, why don't we rest? Today has been a long day, suggested Shizuka, a little sleepy, to which everyone nodded and looked for a place to sleep. Taking the sofa to sleep, Naruto lay down and watched as everyone disappeared into the house. 3 hours later. Feeling really uncomfortable and with a brutal urge to go to the bathroom, Naruto had to open his eyes with great discomfort and was slightly surprised to see that he was no longer on the couch, but was on the living room rug. However, that was not what surprised him. What surprised him was the fact that he was totally surrounded by his companions, who were trying to snuggle up to him as much as possible. Well, you have to see the things that happen, Naruto said to himself as he quietly slipped between the girls until he left without waking any of them. Walking stealthily, Naruto went to do his business. Once he finished what he had to do, Naruto had to return to the place where he came from. On the way, a lamp turned on, revealing Ada, who was sitting in an armchair while staring at him. This scared Naruto a little, who jumped slightly. Buck, what a scare, can't you sleep? Naruto asked curiously, seeing the very awake Ada, who looked at him with a smile. Well, someone had to stay awake to patrol, Ada said calmly while she moved her legs provocatively. Naruto noticed this action and couldn't help but raise an eyebrow at the action, however he didn't say anything. You have a point there, Naruto said simply and then sat down in a chair in front of her. You know, you really are an enigma to me, Ada confessed to Naruto, who looked at her with those bored eyes. And why would that be? Naruto asked as he took a small notebook with a pen and began to scribble on it. It's just that I reviewed all your records since you were born until now, and there's never a hint of training or anything specific, said Ada as she crossed her well-toned legs again, this time letting Naruto see under her dress, but Naruto remained calm as he continued scribbling in his notebook. And is that a problem? I asked, giving Ada's body a quick glance. No really, I just find it hard to believe that a 17-year-old high school student can throw scalpels with such precision, and not only that, but can shoot guns with such good accuracy just based on games. Ada spoke casually, making Naruto stop his constant scribbling and look at Ada. That's funny, Naruto said calmly, to which Ada raised an eyebrow. Curious? What could be curious about this? Ada asked Naruto, who resumed his scribbling again. It's just that from what I remember I never threw a single scalpel after I got infected, and according to what you told me your corporation started watching me moments after I got infected. That leads me to the conclusion that they had me under surveillance long before I got infected, said Naruto as he finished doodling and showing Ada a perfect portrait of herself. The room was left in a tense silence in which neither of them took their eyes off the other. This lasted for a few seconds that quickly felt like minutes for the two people, seeing their faces dimmed by the darkness and illuminated by the only light that was the lamp next to Ada. You are one of those people who pay attention to things that normally any person would overlook. You could be a good detective, said Ada with a touch of mockery in her voice. Naruto, however, did not respond or make any indication of reaction on his face. He just stood there waiting for an answer from the woman in front of him. Sighing, Ada simply leaned back further into the chair and looked up at the ceiling for a moment before looking back at Naruto. Okay, I must admit that you were being watched long before all this happened, Ada admitted to Naruto. She raised an eyebrow and asked again. How long are we talking about? Naruto asked Ada. Last month was the 4th anniversary, Ada said simply to Naruto, who sat there with a somewhat thoughtful face until his eyes opened a little when he realized something. What day specifically? Naruto asked. 15, Ada said as she started playing with a lock of her hair. The day my parents died, Naruto said in a whisper that Ada could hear. Chapter 8. The day my parents died, Naruto said in almost a whisper that was heard thanks to the silence that was in the living room. Answer me one more question, Naruto said with his head down as he received a nod from Ada. My parents' death wasn't an accident, right? Naruto asked Ada, who remained silent until she sighed and answered. You're right, your parents' death wasn't an accident. Ada was going to continue but was interrupted. Thanks to the high-pitched scream of what Naruto and Ada deduced was a girl. Quickly getting up from the chair, Naruto went to the window and then moved the curtains a little and looked around until he saw some people in front of a house a bit far from theirs. Taking the viewers they found in a safe full of weapons in Shizuka's friend's room, Naruto quickly used them to see better and noticed a man about 40 years old next to a girl with dark pink hair with a puppy held in her hands. In front of them he saw a somewhat older man with a knife tied to the end of a broomstick. Naruto had to frown when he saw that the knife was stuck up to the hilt right in the middle of the chest of the man who seemed to be taking care of the girl behind him. Sighing as he saw the man fall dead, Naruto watched as the people closed the door again, leaving the girl and her dog to their fate. The latter began to bark as he saw a pair of zombies enter through the open gate. Sighing again, Naruto quickly took a sniper rifle from the weapons backpacks, then loaded it as if he were an expert. Opening the window, Naruto aimed and breathing calmly pulled the trigger and smashed the skull of one of the zombies. Pulling back the bolt, a shell came out of the sniper rifle, with a slight trail of smoke coming out of it. Luckily the sniper had a silencer, which Naruto hadn't really noticed at the beginning, although it would have made no difference since the girl's scream had surely already alerted the zombies around her. After firing the second shot, Naruto saw how the second zombie fell to the ground without being able to touch the girl or the puppy. Stopping aiming, Naruto looked back and noticed that the girls were waking up in a daze thanks to the girl's scream. Girls, sorry for the noise, but we have to rescue a girl, Naruto said to the girls who, upon hearing that, stood up as quickly as possible. Okay Nagatoro, Siko, I need you to accompany me to get to the point. Shizuka and Kyoko move the bus from the entrance and take out your friend Goma's military car. Yashi and Rai take 3 pistols and accompany them to protect them. Miku, Saya collect everything necessary and keep it in the trunk of the car. Ada provide me with sniper support while we get to the point. If you see that Kyoko and Shizuka and the others have problems, help them. Naruto ordered the girls, who nodded and began to do what was asked. Leaving the house, Naruto, Nagatoro and Siko went in the direction of the girl while they encountered some zombies that were killed by Ada. Before reaching the point, Naruto and the 2 girls noticed that a large group of zombies was approaching in the background, so cursing, Naruto and his 2 companions accelerated their pace. Upon reaching the duck house, Naruto quickly closed the gate. Just at that moment a zombie tried to enter. There's no time, we have to go, said Naruto, seeing the little girl in a corner of the walls and in front of her the little dog that growled at every stranger. Approaching calmly, Naruto just put his hand on the puppy's head and gave him a light caress that calmed the dog a little. Then he picked him up in his hands and then gave him to Nagatoro, who happily took him and began to caress him while Daisha how cute he was. Turning back to the girl, Naruto knelt down and then spoke to her. Hello, I'm Naruto Uzumaki, and don't worry, we're not here to hurt you, we're here to rescue you, said Naruto, ruffling the little girl's hair, who innocently nodded and clung to Naruto, who quickly put her on his back. Seeing the corpse of what looked like the girl's father, Naruto proceeded to say. Siko, can you take one of the white sheets and cover the man's body? Naruto said to Siko, who nodded and did as requested. Ready was Siko's reply. Okay, now we have to get out of here, said Naruto, to which Nagatoro speaks. And how will we do that specifically? Nagatoro asked, pointing at the gate, almost falling down due to the large number of zombies. Well, it's very simple, we'll go behind the houses. If all the zombies are here in front, that means the backside should be clear, Naruto explained to his companions, who nodded, and then Naruto took out a walkie-talkie to proceed with their conversation. NT. If you don't know what a walkie-talkie is, then they are the radios that police officers use to communicate. Ada, are you all ready to go? Over. Naruto asked, to which a few seconds later Ada answered. Yes, we'll be at the extraction point in about 5 minutes, over, Ada replied. Okay, we'll wait for you, over, said Naruto, starting to walk towards the tracer's side of the house. Helping Nagatoro to jump over the wall, Naruto followed his example, and before he finished passing, Naruto turned around and heard how the bars finished breaking. A few seconds later, the screams of the longed-for couple who lived there were heard. Not taking it so seriously, Naruto jumped off the wall, and they began to cross the house that was attached to the previous house. Once we reached the gate of that house, the only thing left to do was wait for the others to arrive with the car. Once the shouts of the anciamos came to an end, the atmosphere became somewhat tense and silent, so trying to liven up the atmosphere, Nagatoro spoke. You know, I never imagined something like this would happen. I mean, this looks like a zombie movie and all that, Nagatoro said. This is certainly something I didn't think would happen, Naruto replied. Yes, is this happening all over the world or just here in Japan? Nagatoro wondered. According to what was said on the news before they lost the signal, this is happening all over the world, Siko said now with her typical stoic face. So billions of people are dead, said Nagatoro. If this continues, humanity will come to an end, Naruto said calmly. But we can survive, right? Nagatoro asked, to which Naruto replied. Of course we can survive, for the moment we have two ways to survive, although each has a disadvantage. First we can go and take refuge in the corporation where Ada comes from, its disadvantage is that sooner or later Umbrella's spies will be able to infiltrate to capture us. Second, and the one that I personally like the most, would be to go to an island and stay there. This has both a possible advantage and a possible disadvantage. The possible advantage would be that humans turned into zombies over time decompose until their bodies no longer have muscle mass to help them move, and its possible disadvantage would be that instead of decomposing, they begin to mutate and later become more dangerous aberrations. Naruto finished explaining to his two companions, who just stood there watching Naruto stranded. What the hell? You really thought about all that, Nagatoro said in amazement. You surprise me more and more, Naruto, said Siko. Well, I have to think about all of that if I don't want anything bad to happen to all of you, Naruto said, looking at them with a small smile that caused them to blush massively. But what crazy things are you saying? Nagatoro said nervously while blushing noticeably and doing his best to look away. And you really mean that? Siko asked, almost in a shy whisper. And why not? Was the only thing Naruto responded to Siko's whispered question that made her blush a little more, but before they continued their conversation, the sound of a vehicle's engine was heard approaching until it stopped right in front of them. The vehicle was one that was normally used by the United States military. This one being driven by Ada who waved at him, behind the military car came the bus, this one being driven by Shizuka who waved at him. The reason the school bus is going to be in the story for sure is for the simple fact that I don't think 12 people and a dog can fit in a military vehicle. Nodding, Naruto got into a military car with Nagatoro and Siko to meet Ada and Nagatoro's sisters inside the car. Hello again, Naruto greeted the girls who greeted Geimo and Yashi in unison, greeted Naruto with a strong hug, while a blush rose to their faces. You don't know how much you worried us, senpai-kun, said Geimo with a blush and a smile that seemed somewhat twisted, and that was very similar to the smiles that Nagatoro made when he tried to bother him. Well, although what could be expected after all, those three were sisters after all. Yes, you had us worried, repeated Yashi with the same mocking smile that his sister Geimo had. On the other hand, Nagatoro just looked at them with dead eyes that showed that she was upset. Naruto was never really bothered by Nagatoro trying to bother him, and he wasn't bothered by Nagatoro's sisters either, so instead of getting upset like Geimo and Yashi expected, Naruto simply returned the hug like he did before with Nagatoro, when everything was still normal. This action causes several reactions. Siko didn't really have a reaction since she was just there in her post with a goofy look while still blushing. Geimo and Yashi got a massive blush for two reasons. The first was because the hug made their assets press against Naruto's body, and the second was that apart from pressing their assets, the two of them could feel every muscle in his chest and abdomen chiseled and hard as marble for that baggy shirt. His abs were so defined that Geimo and Yashi swore they clearly felt the six-pack in his abdomen. Ada simply smiled with a bit of jealousy, but put that aside to continue driving, while Nagatoro, on the other hand, let out a muffled shriek of indignation upon seeing such a scene. Since according to her she was the only one who had the right to reduce a hug and feel her muscles sculpted by the gods themselves. So moving as fast as he could, Nagatoro separated his two sisters from the target of his secret affection. What do you think you're doing? Nagatoro asked, clearly annoyed. Ah. What? Geimo and Yashi asked each other with a dumb look and a blush on their faces. Sighing, Naruto just sat back and relaxed, letting the three sisters argue. Chapter 9. Two engines were heard in the empty streets of a neighborhood where the cherry trees were beginning to bloom, and the warm heat of the sun combined with the wind ruffled Naruto's blonde hair that stuck out of a grill on the roof of the military vehicle. At this moment Naruto was wearing his SWAT bulletproof vest, along with a heavy assault rifle, since Naruto was acting as a sentry, looking everywhere to take action if a group of lickers or some other aberration invented by the Umbrella Corporation appeared. However, Naruto couldn't help but remain unmotivated watching the cherry blossom trees pass by and listening to the tranquility of the wind. It was incredible that this place where they were passing was so calm despite the hell that was happening in the world. Humming out of his daze, Naruto looked down as he felt someone trying to climb up the grate, so stepping back a little, Naruto gave space to the little girl they had saved. Hello Naruto, Oni-san greeted the little girl with an innocent smile on her face. Naruto returned the greeting with a calm smile and ruffled her hair. "Hey Alice, I thought you were with the others," Naruto said with his calm voice, to which Alice pouted and spoke. "They are asleep," said Alice somewhat annoyed, and Naruto could not let out a chuckle at that until he put on a somewhat sad look when he saw the girl. "Are you really not sad about your father? You know you can vent, in fact that's good, don't hold back your sadness," Naruto said to Alice, who changed her pout to a sad look. "Yes, I'm sad, but I feel like if I don't think about it, it won't hurt anymore. First it was my mom and my little brother, and now my dad. I don't want to lose anything else. I don't want to lose you or Pashi," said Alice, with a few held back tears coming to light. "NT. I don't remember if the dog's name was Pashi, but if not, then in this story it will be called that." "Relax, you won't lose us, I can assure you of that," Naruto said to Alice, who hugged him while crying openly, and Naruto began to caress Alice's head. On the bus. Collective sigh. "See that? That's some good husband material," Kyoko said, pointing at Naruto with a blush on her cheeks. "I'm not going to deny it even if I don't like it," said Saya with a blush while crossing her arms and playing her tsundere role perfectly. Whatever you say, if you don't want it, I'm more than willing to be his wife," Miku said now, drawing a jealous moan from Saya, who found it difficult to admit her feelings. "Sigh, he certainly is good husband material, now I regret not even considering starting a conversation with him," she said, laughing as she looked at Naruto with a blush and a goofy smile on his face. "Hey Miku, don't leave me out, I want to be with Naruto too," Shizuka said with an adorable pout. "But what? What are you saying, Shizuka? Remember that you are a teacher and you are at least 10 years older than him," Kyoko replied to Shizuka, who was driving the bus. "Eh? But Kyoko-sensei, there is no longer a policy or law that prohibits us from being together. If you don't remember, the entire world is in chaos. I doubt the government would be bothered with our relationship right now," Shizuka declared, leaving everyone in a state of shock. "Who are you? You can't be Shizuka, she couldn't come up with an argument as good as that," they all said in unison, looking at Shizuka, who pouted. "Ooh, that's cruel," Shizuka said. "But she's right," he said, laughing, drawing everyone's attention. "The laws are practically broken, that means that relationships between a person over 27 like Shizuka and a person under 17 like Naruto are totally valid," I declared, laughing, leaving the place in silence until Miku let out a smile on her face and said. "Even polygamous relationships are valid now," said Miku with a flirtatious smile that sent the imaginations of all the girls there flying, causing a massive blush to appear on their faces. "Oh, what are you thinking?" Saya shouted, blushing at Miku, who simply shrugged. "You know that humanity is in a global crisis and is in danger of extinction, right?" Miku said, not receiving a response from Saya. "You really didn't think that only one of us would stay with Naruto? You know all of us have needs that will have to be relieved in their respective moments," Miku said to those present, who only looked at her with blushes on their faces. "Well, that could be true," Kyoko said in a whisper that everyone clearly heard. "Sensei. Are you really considering it?" Saya asked in disbelief. "Hey, don't blame me. You don't know what it's like to be so close to your ideal man, but at the same time so unattainable," Kyoko replied, with Shizuka nodding from the driver's seat. But this is clearly immoral," said Saya. "And who's going to be telling us what's moral and immoral when we're the only living group in the world?" Shizuka asked rhetorically, making Saya unable to reply. "Let them do what they want," he said, laughing, patting him on the back. "Do you support them too?" Saya asked, laughing, but she just gave him a calm smile. "And why not? Everyone can make their decisions as they please," I replied, laughing, to which Saya simply sighed and stopped insisting. "So it's decided, we're going to form a big family together. We just need to inform them and explain to Siko, Nagatoro, Geimo, Yashi, and possibly Ada," said Miku with some doubt about Ada since they hadn't known her for long. With Naruto, he was quietly looking around while Alice enjoyed the wind, taking the walkie-talkie. Naruto proceeded to talk. "Saya, let's make a stop, I need you to come up front so you can direct the way to your house over," Naruto said to the girls who were on the bus, so giving 2 quick hits to the roof of the car. Ada quickly understood the signal to stop, so doing what was indicated, she stopped the car. Once stopped, Saya quickly got out of the bus and ran as quietly as possible to the other car. Saya opened the door and entered the car and then closed the door. Nodding, Naruto proceeded to give 3 quick knocks on the roof of the car so that Ada would start moving again. Looking down, Naruto proceeded to give instructions to Saya. "Okay, now Saya, I need you to take the binoculars and come up here with me so you can accompany me as a lookout," Naruto said, to which Saya nodded and took the binoculars and then went up the grate where Naruto was already. Once uploaded, Naruto changed the channel and gave the walkie-talkie to Saya, who proceeded to speak. "Okay, turn right," Saya indicated to the walkie-talkie, which was now connected to Ada's. Ada nodded and turned right somewhat abruptly, causing Saya to inevitably run next to Naruto and causing Saya to blush and resume her position. 15 more minutes of directions, and Saya had already indicated that her house was close. "Now you just have to turn right here and go straight ahead," said Saya. However, once they turned right, Ada had to stop when she saw a large group of zombies about 17 meters away. "Saya, how many zombies can you see?" Naruto asked Saya, who started counting. "There are at least 67 zombies," Saya replied. "How strange, why don't they continue on the path? Do you see something that's stopping them?" Naruto asked, to which Saya squinted her eyes to see in the background some thin cables that acted like a mesh that blocked the entire path. "There's a mesh of steel cables blocking their path, this had to be my parents," said Saya, looking through binoculars. "How do you know that?" Naruto asked curiously. "Well, considering that he's the only one who has enough money to buy a huge amount of steel cables, my father is the only one who would take these safety measures," Saya said with a drop of sweat. "Well, I really don't know what to say. Well, do your parents have any channel through which we can communicate?" Naruto asked, to which Saya began to remember and gave him the walkie-talkie. Try channel 74, said Saya, to which Naruto did as indicated. "Nothing," said Naruto. 59, Saya said again. "Zombie sounds." "Well, this one had something, but at the same time nothing," said Naruto. A couple of minutes later, as Saya was getting frustrated, a number she hadn't tried finally came to mind. "Well, if this one doesn't work, then I don't know what number it is," said Saya, and then said the number. "Try with 20, said Saya, to which Naruto nodded and put the indicated channel to then talk. "Hello," said Naruto. After a few seconds he reduced his response. "Hello, is something wrong outside the shelter?" asked a voice that Saya recognized, so taking the walkie-talkie she proceeded to speak. "Father, it's me, Saya," said Saya, to which the voice responded. "Saya? Is that you? Where is she?" "To send a rescue party," said Saya's father. "We are close to the house on the northeast side, but there is a barrier of cables and zombies that does not let us pass," Saya informed her father, who quickly responded. "Well, I'm going to send a group to let them through," said Saya's father, cutting the link. "So 20, huh?" Naruto said calmly, to which Saya nodded. "Well, even I'm surprised that dad used that number. After all, it's my birthday," Saya said with disinterest. "Well, what should I do while we wait for the rescue?" Naruto thought calmly, watching the large group of zombies that did not react to his presence, and an idea came to his mind. Changing the channel of walkie-talkie, Naruto proceeded to speak. "Everyone get out, this is a perfect time to give you some shooting lessons," Naruto said to everyone on the bus, who looked at each other. Getting off the bus, they all saw Naruto get off the military car with 2 bags, one of which contained pistols, rifles, shotguns and a few accessories, such as silencers, sights and front grips. The other bag was full of ammunition of all kinds. Behind Naruto came the now awake Siko, Nagatoro, Geimo, Yashi, along with Alice, Saya and Ada. "Well, you're probably wondering why I'm going to give you shooting lessons. Well, that's actually very simple." Naruto paused before continuing to speak. "Because if an incident like the one that separated us happens, at least they'll have a way to defend themselves, and I'll be more relaxed knowing that they'll be okay," Naruto explained to the girls, who nodded in understanding. "Now take a weapon you feel comfortable with and come to me so I can put a silencer on each of you," said Naruto, pointing at the bag of weapons. 10 minutes later. "Well, I should have guessed that you couldn't handle very heavy weapons," Naruto said with a drop of sweat when he saw that everyone was having trouble keeping their rifles. "Well, better take some guns to start," said Naruto, with a drop of sweat increasing since from what he remembers he told them to take a weapon with which they felt comfortable. 5 minutes later. "Okay, now come here, Kyoko, let's give you an example of how to aim and shoot," said Naruto, calling Kyoko to come closer to him. Approaching with some nervousness, Kyoko stood in front of Naruto. "Well, the first thing you have to do is raise the gun and hold it firmly with both hands, and keep your arms tense, because the force of impact can cause the gun to fly away or make you lose control," Naruto indicated while he aligned Kyoko's arms and then stood behind Kyoko and from behind her took his hands on hers. "I know it goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway." This made Kyoko blush because of Naruto's proximity and because she could feel the slight rubbing of the fabric of Naruto's pants against her butt. This on the other hand caused a wave of jealousy in all those present, even Ada, who had a small pout seeing this scene. Kyoko on the other hand felt the penetrating glances of everyone, so giving them all a distant glance, Kyoko gave a smile to the mischievous one, so that in an innocent movement, Kyoko pushed her butt back, causing Naruto's crotch and Kyoko's soft buttocks to inevitably stick together. This action made Naruto abruptly stop explaining because of Kyoko's innocent action, who was currently looking at him with an innocent look on her face. So that's how things are, huh? Naruto thought with a small smile on his face. At school they could say he was a weirdo or a delinquent, but something that was undeniable was that Naruto was still a man, and he liked and excited these things, so gently and delicately Naruto began to lower his hands from Kyoko's shoulders to her thin waist, and in a somewhat abrupt movement, Naruto pulled her closer to him. This action surprised Kyoko a little, as she hadn't expected this boldness from Naruto, but with a slight smile and a brighter blush, Kyoko couldn't deny that she liked how Naruto was possessing her. Bringing his lips close to Kyoko's ear, Naruto proceeded to tell her to shoot, which was followed by Kyoko tensing her arms and pulling the trigger, and an almost soundless shot was heard. Far away in the large group of zombies, it was noticed how one of them fell to the ground with a hole a few centimeters away, almost missing the brain. Separating from Kyoko, Naruto turned to see the very jealous girls who were looking at him with pouts. Naruto simply raised an eyebrow and asked. What? I was just teaching him how to shoot a gun, Naruto said innocently. Yeah, sure, said an annoyed Saya who crossed her arms. Well, who wants to be next? Naruto asked, to which everyone's face changed to one of happiness, and in unison they were all going to scream, but the warning look on Naruto's face made them just raise their hands and say me in a whisper. 27 minutes later. The large group of zombies of 60 or so zombies had now been reduced to about 8 zombies who were occasionally stumbling over the corpses that were lying everywhere. And at this moment all of them had their faces completely red, even Naruto had a small but almost imperceptible red tint on his cheeks, since with all the playing and groping that went into the explanations the nature of Naruto's body couldn't help but be present when the softness of Nagatoro's tight butt finally made Naruto's beast wake up. Nagatoro was the most blushed of all since she was the one who could feel how that thing stuck to her tight ass. However, a weary but blushing Geimo took the initiative and pulled Nagatoro out from in front of Naruto so that she could take his place and look at him with a mocking smile while she clung to Naruto and said. Nana-senpai, could you explain it to me again? It's just that there are some things I can't understand, said Geimo, Nagatoro's sister, while gently moving her butt in Naruto's crotch, which was about to separate. However, Geimo glanced at the other girls to support her, and of which Yashi, Rai and Miku reacted and placed Rai behind her, Yashi on her right side and Miku on her left side, all while they attached their developed breasts to Naruto. I had said this in a fic which was deleted for inexplicable reasons, but I'm not going to make the girls have gigantic breasts since I personally don't like them. If seriously in other fics, they make the girls' breasts so big that in my mind they no longer look human, so everyone's breasts will be the same, according to the anime manga. Naruto didn't really mind this position, in fact he sincerely hoped that these things would happen again, and judging by the looks on all the girls' faces, Naruto was sure that these scenes would happen again, since Naruto could see the looks of death on everyone present, well, although Ada hit it very well. But the soft touch of the doe's buttocks made him come out of his thoughts, and he raised his hands from the doe's waist upwards while he touched her breasts and then placed himself on the doe's hands to adjust the sight. Geimo was blushing, but still kept that mocking smile. Even when she felt Naruto's hand brush against her chest, she kept her smile. Even when she felt Naruto's lips gently brush against her pink ears while he told her to pull the trigger, she kept her smile and pulled the trigger to end up killing another zombie. Being a bit more daring, Naruto before separating from Geimo, gave a sensual lick to Geimo's earlobe, which finally broke Geimo's smile, changing it to one of embarrassment. Just at that moment, car engines were heard on the other side of the cable barricade, showing that 2 black cars that were normally used by rich families were approaching. A few men got out of them, visibly confused to see that there were only 7 zombies left standing. What happened here? The man wondered confusedly. Naruto on the other hand kept the bags of weapons and ammunition in a rack under one of the rear seats of the car, since he did not want them to see the weapons, because he would be more than sure that if they saw him they would want to take them away, and he only left the pistols that the girls had in their hands, and that way at least he would have an airlock to say that they only had those pistols, and that they only had a few bullets left. Chapter 10. Wow, your family really is very nice, said Naruto with his typical calmness on his face as they entered a mansion of about 3 floors and a large plot of land with a fountain in the middle. You know, it really doesn't seem like you're surprised by that, Asaya replied poutingly as she looked away and noticed a bunch of tents where a bunch of people in somewhat thin clothes were standing. Hey, what are all those people doing here? Saya asked one of those sent by her father, who turned to see what was pointed out and then answered. Oh, they are some acquaintances of your parents along with their guests, the man replied to Saya, who just nodded and let him pass. Once the military car and bus were parked at a workshop, everyone headed to the main gates where they met Saya's parents. Naruto first saw Saya's father, who was a man of very tall and robust stature with many muscles. His facial features seemed to be naturally frowned, making him look as if he were always angry. I couldn't find a good picture of him, but I imagine they won't even give him a second glance. And second, Naruto now saw Saya's mother, who had a gentle look along with one of relief, seeing that her daughter was safe. She had beautiful dark pink hair almost purple that reached her lower back. The body of said woman was like that of a model that could rival the Russian model Scarlett Johansson or the British actress Emma Watson. Okay, maybe she was exaggerating a little since her companions were not far behind either. At this point Naruto wouldn't be such a prince as to ask himself what had he done to deserve this. Like those typical prince characters from manga and anime, no, of course not. Naruto was in a certain way grateful for these facts, but his thoughts were quickly interrupted by the somewhat rough voice of Saya's father. "Saya, I'm glad you're safe and sound," said Saya's father as they approached the group. "Saya-chan, my dear, you had me so worried," said Saya's mother with more emotion, giving the pink-haired girl a warm hug. "And mom, don't treat me like a child," said Saya, somewhat embarrassed by her mother's affectionate actions. "But I'm fine, and I must admit that if it weren't for Naruto's instructions, there's no doubt none of us would have been able to get here," Saya declared, pointing at Naruto, who remained calm the whole time. Saya's father approached Naruto, his gaze never leaving until the two were face to face. After a few moments without saying anything, Saya's father extended his hand, which Naruto looked at for a moment and proceeded to shake. "I am Sachiro Takagi, and I feel the need to give you my most sincere thanks for saving my daughter," said Sachiro, without changing his stoic expression at all to Naruto, who responded. "Thank you for the thanks, but I don't think it's that bad after all. I couldn't leave her behind without any remorse in my mind," said Naruto, who like Sachiro, didn't change his calm expression one bit. The two stared at each other for a few tense moments, until finally Sachiro let out a small smile. "I like you, boy," said Sachiro, surprising both Saya and his wife, since Sachiro had never before stated that he liked someone. "I can say the same," Naruto replied with a calm smile. "You know, if you are ever interested in my daughter, I give you my blessing," said Sachiro again with his stoic expression. "Ad." Saya shouted with a massive blush. "What do you think, Yuriko?" Sachiro asked his wife, now recognized as Yuriko, who smiled mockingly. "Oh, he seems perfect to me, he seems like a good boy," said Yuriko, while letting out small giggles. At that moment everyone turned to look at Naruto to know his answer, but Naruto remained calm at all times. Looking slightly at Saya, Naruto let out a slight mocking smile and proceeded to speak. "Oh, it's very kind of you to offer me your daughter, and rest assured that I will strongly consider it," Naruto replied, to the amusement of Saya's mother, who enjoyed seeing her daughter's blushing face. The others were more than jealous, not only because Saya's father had offered her as a suitor, but also because Naruto had admitted that he was going to consider her offer. "Well, leaving that aside, I have some more important things to discuss with you," said Naruto, putting on a more serious expression, which was quickly imitated by Yuriko and Sachiro. "And what would that be, boy?" Sachiro asked with interest. "It's about the future of our survival," said Naruto, and without wasting time Sachiro indicated to the group to follow him to a more private room. Once in a more private environment, Sachiro proceeded to ask. "Well, what is this matter about?" Sachiro asked, to which Naruto nodded and gave Ada a look to explain. "Hello, let me introduce myself. I'm Ada Wong, an agent of the Capcom Corporation," said Ada, seeing that Sachiro was about to talk about how that corporation was only a video game industry, but Ada quickly interrupted him. I don't remember if I had already named Ada a corporation, but if not, well, here it is. "I know you're probably thinking that this is just a video game industry," he said as he took out a small cube that he proceeded to place on a small table in the middle of everyone, and then it began to emit a hologram of the small building that was supposed to be the main building of this industry. "This certainly doesn't look impressive, but the truth is that this is just a cover for what it really hides," Ada said as she controlled the cube's reflection from a touchscreen phone and made the image of the small building zoom out, revealing a series of hundreds of floors built underground. For a moment no one said anything at all. Even Naruto was somewhat surprised by how huge the base of the corporation Ada worked for was. "May I ask what is the reason for your presence in this place if what you say is true?" said Sachiro, to which Ada nodded and answered. "The reason I'm here is because of him," said Ada, pointing at Naruto, who remained calm. "At this moment there are two reasons why the Capcom Corporation wants to protect him. The first of them is because his parents, who are currently deceased, were at one time some of the most important agents of the corporation," said Ada, surprising those present. Now Naruto was noticeably surprised, but nevertheless, as was customary in his daily life, Naruto quickly relaxed and took the news calmly. Second, and possibly the most important reason, is that Naruto is currently infected with the virus, that instead of turning him into one of those things, the virus ended up mutating and becoming part of Naruto as an amplification of his strength and senses, explained Ada, while making the cube reflect what the original virus was like, so that it would then mutate and become the T-virus which Naruto now possessed. "That's good, right?" Yuriko asked with some curiosity. Well, this seems like a good thing, it really isn't, because thanks to that, the Umbrella Corporation, which was the one that released the virus all over the world, is now after Naruto to experiment with it, said Ada, now showing the small Umbrella Industries building. But if the Capcom Corporation is so big, why don't they confront them? Yuriko asked. That's simple, the reason we don't face them is because we simply wouldn't win, said Ada, leaving everyone shocked. What? Because they wouldn't win if their corporation seems to have a lot of power, Shizuka said innocently. For this he said, as the small building of Umbrella Industries moved away again, revealing hundreds of thousands of floors underground. While the Capcom Corporation has slightly more advanced technology than the Umbrella Corporation, they possess much more firepower, more than double our military force, and with their recent biological weapons, Ada said to those present who were in shock. The only thing our confrontation would cause would be to deal a critical blow to the Umbrella Corporation by reducing a large number of its soldiers and biological weapons, but they would recover those losses in a few years, and our sacrifice would have been in vain, Ada finished saying. But taking Naruto to their base wouldn't cause a conflict with them? Kyoko asked conditionally. I certainly would, but at this moment the Umbrella Corporation still hasn't found Naruto, unlike us who already had him under surveillance a few months ago. Once Naruto is in the base they will never be able to find him, said Ada. If it's not too much trouble, I was wondering if your corporation could take us as refugees. Yuriko asked, leaving a silence in the room as everyone watched Ada lower her gaze slightly. Unfortunately that is not going to be possible, at this moment we are hosting large numbers of relatives of our different employers, in fact the fact that your daughter along with Naruto's companions are accepted in the facilities is a luxury, however at this moment the only thing we can offer is one more person, but that would be all offered, Ada leaving the room in silence again. Well that's true, Yuriko tried to say, but was interrupted thanks to an explosion that resonated just outside the mansion. What was that? Sachiro wondered as he stood up and spoke into his communicator. Guard, report what's going on. Sachiro asked seriously. Boss, it's the zombies. They're acting much more aggressive than before. Right now, they're climbing the walls surrounding the mansion, the guard reported through the communicator as gunshots were heard. Aggressive at what level? Sachiro asked. Very aggressive now, instead of approaching slowly they started running very fast, and now it seems that the time it takes for a person to become a zombie has been reduced to a few seconds, said the guard. Shit, how many are there? Sachiro asked. There are too many to count, boss, the guard replied. This is bad, Sachiro said to himself as he turned to look at Naruto and his companions. You have to go. I'll give you time to get to your vehicles and leave, Sachiro said as he started walking towards the exit. I'm going to get ready, Yuriko said as she prepared to follow Sachiro, but she was quickly stopped by him. No, you'll go with them, Sachiro said seriously. But Yuriko tried to reply but was interrupted by Sachiro. No buts, you'll go with them and that's it, repeated Sachiro while turning his back on everyone. Please Yuriko, let me protect my family, said Sachiro, not wanting to show his face. Yuriko, upon hearing this from her husband, finally looked down and felt an understanding. Okay then let's go, said Yuriko as she turned to see Naruto's group that was starting to leave the room towards the workshop, but before Naruto and Yuriko left the room, Sachiro spoke again. Naruto, please protect them and talk happily, I'll leave them in your hands, said Sachiro, making a few tears come out of Yuriko. I promise, was the only thing Naruto said that finally brought a smile to Sachiro's face, who took a katana and then went out into the fray. Let's go, Yuriko, Naruto said simply as he started running in the direction of the workshop where the others were already waiting. Entering the military car, Naruto knocked on the roof 3 times, indicating that they should leave. Starting the 2 vehicles, they quickly left the workshop towards the main door. There everyone understood what the guard had said since it was true. The zombies were now acting more erratically and were about 5 times faster than before. Some of them even jumped strongly onto the vehicles to then cling to them, but with a couple of bullets to their heads courtesy of Naruto, that could be fixed. Before leaving completely, the group noticed Hito fighting with everything he had to kill as many zombies as possible until they finally left the mansion grounds. Having been able to get out of this predicament caused everyone to let out a collective sigh. Lowering and closing the grill, Naruto sat down and proceeded to relax his tense body. This was noticed by Ada, Yuriko, Saya, Miku and Rai, who were the ones who had gotten into the military car. You look very tense, are you okay? Miku asked with concern. If you look tired, you should rest a little, I suggested, laughing. Seeing that she was going to refuse, Saya and Yuriko intervened. Ray is right, rest, you look very tired, said Saya while crossing her arms under her breasts. Come on, sleep, you need to regain your strength, said Yuriko with her calm face and loving voice. However, Naruto could clearly see that she was sad, so lying down, he finally gave in and lay down, then closed his eyes and fell into a deep sleep. Naruto's dream. Getting up from a single bed, Naruto sat down and looked around, studying the room he was in. How strange, this room looks like the room I had when I was 10, Naruto thought as he walked through the room until he stopped dead in his tracks and saw his reflection in the glass of his window. What's going on? Naruto wondered when he saw that she had her 10-year-old appearance, however his mother's voice pulled him out of his thoughts. Naruto. Get ready for your last day of school, shouted his mother's voice. Instinctively Naruto responded with an "I'm coming" and proceeded to put him in a school uniform of a white shirt with a tie and black pants with black shoes, a fairly simple uniform, but it got the job done. Okay, apparently I'm 10 years old again, I'm going to school wait, what school did I go to when I was 10? Naruto asked himself mentally until he finally remembered. Or if it's true he went to Imperial College in London. Wait, London, yes it's true, when he was 10, we moved to the United Kingdom, Naruto thought as he went down the stairs and found his parents and had to restrain himself strongly so as not to throw himself out and hug them. Good morning mom, dad, said Naruto greeting his parents. I don't remember if I've said it before, but his parents are Minato and Kushina. Good morning, darling, how did you wake up? Kushina asked with a very kind smile. Okay mom, what are you making for breakfast? Naruto asked. Your mom is getting her classic pancakes with bacon and eggs, Minato said with a smile as he read the newspaper. Well that sounds delicious, Naruto said with a smile as he sat at the table and a plate with said food was placed in front of him. Eating calmly Naruto saw the clock and remembering what time classes started Naruto stood up quickly and finished swallowing his last bite of what was left of breakfast. I'm getting late, I have to go, said Naruto as he took his bag and at that moment the doorbell of the house rang. Oh? That must be that cute girl who's always with you, surely you're not boyfriend and girlfriend? Kushina asked, blushing a little, to Naruto, who didn't respond and simply went to the door with his typical calm face. Opening the door, Naruto found a girl his age with hair the same blonde as Naruto's, divided into two long braids that reached her lower back. The girl's face was undoubtedly the most beautiful a girl her age could have. The girl always seemed to keep an emotionless face. Hi Kami, how are you? Naruto asked calmly. I'm fine, and you? The now recognized as Kami returned the question with a calm face. In a certain sense the two looked quite alike, they both had blonde hair, they both had blue eyes, and they both had the same calm attitude. It was as if they were two soulmates who would inevitably unite if you gave them a little more time, but of course things don't always end as one expects, since Naruto knew that the next day this friendship that lasted for quite some time would come to an end. The reason? Well, it's simple. The next day Naruto was going to move to another country again with his parents, and sadly, Naruto had to tell this news to the girl next to him. Kami, Naruto called to the girl who turned to look at him. Yes? He asked with his always expressionless face. I have to tell you something, Naruto said while thinking with regret. Here we go again, he thought with some sadness. There's no easy way to say this, but tomorrow morning I'll be leaving the country with my parents, Naruto blurted out for the second time in his life, and neither of them realized that they had stopped walking and were now at the entrance of a lonely park. Are you going to leave? Kami asked, her face expressionless as she looked straight at him. Yes, my parents told me yesterday, added Naruto. For a long moment the two stared at each other with their calm and imperturbable faces, until Kami's beautiful eyes began to moisten and then begin to tear. This surprised Naruto greatly. Kami, Naruto said softly as he approached the girl who couldn't stop crying, then gave her a hug which the girl returned with a little more strength. Naruto, make me a promise, Kami said in Naruto's ear, who nodded on the girl's shoulder. Naru. Promise me that no matter what happens, you will never forget me or these feelings that I have gathered just for you, Kami said as she moved her face away and then planted a chaste kiss on Naruto, who accepted the kiss and returned it. Naruto. I promise you, Naruto said once they broke away from the kiss. Naruto. End of Naruto's dream. Getting up agitated, Naruto looked everywhere, noticing that everyone was looking at him. Naruto, you didn't wake up, Miku said to Naruto, who wiped the sweat on his forehead. No matter how much we yelled at you, you wouldn't wake up, Saya added. You seemed agitated while you were sleeping, were you having a nightmare? She said, laughing as Naruto looked at her and calmed her down. It was just a good dream, but let's put that aside. What did you want to tell me? Naruto said, calming his breathing. Oh yes, that's right. We wanted to tell you that we are already arriving at the base, said Yuriko, pointing to a building not far from them. Chapter 11. Okay, there are only 3 blocks left, Ada informed both the passengers in the vehicle she was driving and the bus following her through the intercom. Well, that was threadbare. Were we near the place? Naruto asked, still visibly dazed from the dream he had had. Well, for you the trip was short, but the truth is that the trip lasted 8 hours because we had to go around the city that was full of zombies and lickers, said Ada as she slowed down the car and proceeded to enter an alley to the right of where the building they were going to was supposed to be. Taking out a kind of identification card, Ada proceeded to stick it to the glass in front of her. This caught the attention of those present, but even more tired they felt a slight tremor and then noticed how the floor of the alley began to descend until leaving a ramp that went down an underground tunnel, followed by that lights began to turn on illuminating a descending corridor. "Well, to be honest, I was expecting a giant elevator," Naruto declared calmly. "In fact, we do have a giant elevator that can easily fit 2 Antonov and 225 planes, but that's only for emergencies, because if we used it, many of the buildings around would collapse just by opening it," Ada explained as she began to walk down the corridor. "NT, for those who don't know what plane he's talking about, it's the giant plane that appears in the movie, World War Z. If you haven't seen the movie, which I doubt, just search it on Google." Naruto just stared blankly at Ada, who broke out in a sweat. "What?" Ada asked. "How did you manage to build that without anyone noticing?" Naruto asked curiously. "Oh, that's it, well we have another giant elevator in the distance on land that the corporation bought, so the materials came in through there and we built the elevator from underground," Ada finished explaining. "Well that makes sense," Naruto declared as they noticed that they had already arrived at a kind of parking lot where there were a lot of different types of armored vehicles with installed turrets or other types of weapons. "Wow, there's a whole shoulder for vehicles here," said Naruto, getting out of the car along with the others who followed his example. "Yes, well, follow me, the boss wants to talk to you," said Ada, walking to an elevator. Following Ada, Naruto and his companions got into the elevator, which was very wide and strangely had chairs stuck to the walls of the elevator. Using a touch screen where the floor buttons should normally be, Ada entered the number 396. Naruto, seeing this, only prayed that when he asked about this, it wasn't what he thought. "Ada, please tell me that's just an access code and not the number of the floor we're going to," Naruto said to Ada, who looked at him and sighed apologetically. "Well at least we know what the chairs were for," Miku declared as she took a seat and the elevator doors closed as it began to descend. 30 minutes later, floor 396. The elevator doors finally opened to reveal the entire group sitting in their respective chairs, well, except for Yashi and Rai who were sitting on Naruto's legs. There were 2 chairs left. "We're finally here," said Nagatoro with a hint of annoyance upon seeing the 2 harpies sitting on Naruto's legs. "It seemed endless," Shizuka added as she stood up, followed by the others who also stood up, leaving only Naruto sitting. "What's up Naruto? Do you want to go another turn?" asked Saya looking at Naruto, who simply said. "I'm waiting for my legs to get their blood circulation back," he replied calmly as he felt the warmth of his own blood circulate again in his legs. "Okay, now let's go," Naruto said, standing up. He continued following Ada through a completely wide hallway and several doors on both sides. Occasionally, they passed by one or another worker who simply greeted them and continued on their way. However, in the end, they reached some double doors made of tempered glass, which opened automatically thanks to the ID card shown by Ada again. Once the doors opened, a very large and luxurious office was revealed with some sofas here and there. In the back, there was a desk in which an old man of about 70 or 75 years old was reviewing some papers. When he saw them enter, he quickly put that aside. "Welcome to my facilities, I was waiting for you," the old man said calmly to those present who only nodded. "Before we begin our talk, I must first offer my condolences for the passing of your parents, Mr. Uzumaki. It really was a real shame to have lost them. They were very important to our corporation," said the old man with a slight frown as he spoke about the subject. "But well, let me introduce myself. I am the leader of this Arthur Capcom Corporation and I am glad that Alan was able to arrive safe and sound. Now, Ada Wong will show you the room where you will all be weighed," Arthur said, giving a signal to Ada, who nodded and indicated that they should follow her out of the office. Once outside, Naruto proceeded to speak. "Well, that was actually something brief," Naruto said calmly. "You're right, you know I was expecting something with more dialogue, but I'm not complaining," Gamo added. "That's actually good, because we're all exhausted from all we've been through," Kyoko said as they followed Ada back to the elevator and Esta entered the number 300. Sighing in relief that it wasn't a floor far, the elevator began to ascend until it reached the indicated floor. Getting off the elevator, everyone found themselves in the same spotless white hallways. Walking along, Ada guided everyone to a specific door that had the number 3862 on a small sign above the door. "Well, this is where all of you will sleep, eat, watch movies, and who knows maybe try to conceive offspring," said Ada mischievously while moving her eyebrows suggestively. Needless to say they were all a bucking red tone, well to Naruto's disappointment, who had an imperceptible blush that no one noticed. "Ada, what are you talking about?" Saya said with some annoyance. "Okay, but don't forget to let me know so I can join you," Ada added with a mocking smile as she turned around to stop and speak again. "Oh, by the way Naruto, I forgot to tell you that originally someone else and I were going to go on the mission to bring them here." She seemed excited to go find you, but unfortunately they had to send her on another mission. She should be arriving in about 15 days at the most, said Ada, confusing everyone, even Naruto, who didn't know who she could be talking about. She'll surely be happy to see you, said Ada, and then walked away from the group, who remained silent. Who was Naruto talking about? They all asked in unison with overly friendly smiles that would make any man wish he had brown pants to camouflage the mess they had made inside. However, Naruto is Naruto, and he didn't even react to those chilling smiles and simply walked into the room while thinking about who this person Ada was talking about could be. What just happened? A stunned Kyoko wondered. He just ignored our woman power, Miku added. Is he immune? I asked and laughed with condition. I don't think so, since I'm the one who has lived with him the most. I know exactly why our angry woman instincts don't affect him, Nagatoro said more calmly, drawing everyone's attention. And what would that be? Yuriko asked curiously. Well, it's simple, the reason is because he himself knows that he hasn't done anything wrong, and that keeps him calm and unperturbed, Nagatoro said to the women who looked at her in disbelief. But what? How do you know that? Siko asked. Well, I, more than you, have spent a lot of time trying to annoy Naruto with multiple amounts of insinuations, in which I made him look like a pervert or a stalker. However, he never got upset at all, nor showed any sign of nervousness, said Nagatoro with his chest puffed out, knowing Naruto better than all of them. His level of relationship with Naruto is very high, said Geimo with a drop of sweat and pretending to have a deep easy power measuring lens. Well, let's go in, we've been out here for a long time, and besides I'm tired, said Shizuka, entering the room being followed by everyone. The interior of the room was actually simple, white walls, a bed for each of them, a table that fit everyone, a bathroom and a small refrigerator that contained bottles of water. Coming out of the bathroom came a Naruto with standard white pants that were on a piece of furniture inside the bathroom. While he came out, Naruto dried his hair with a towel. However, none of those present were watching what he was doing, and they simply saw Naruto's well-marked body with muscles with stunned faces and a trickle of blood running down their noses, who, upon noticing their presence, spoke. Oh, I see you're done talking, well, I'll go ahead and take a shower, I hope you don't mind, Naruto said calmly as he walked to one of the beds and lay down, leaving a group of very stunned girls who stood there like statues. Are you going to stay there all day? Or night? Wait, what time is it? Naruto asked curiously, taking his cell phone that was charging next to him and then showing that it was 10:47 p.m. Wow, it's so late. Naruto said in surprise. Oh hey, how about we celebrate finally being safe again? Shizuka suggested, snapping out of her daze as she walked deeper into the room and pulled out a bunch of liquor from a bag. Shizuka-sensei, where did you get all that liquor? Saya asked curiously. I brought them from my friend's house, she replied calmly as she placed the bottles of alcohol on the table and proceeded to look for a bunch of glasses. Shizuka-sensei, you don't expect us to drink alcohol, do you? I asked in disbelief and laughed at the pile of glasses. What? But of course that's what I intend, Shizuka said innocently. Are you crazy? First you want to have a relati, Kyoko tried to scold but was quickly silenced with all the girls at her side looking at her with warning. Cough cough, whatever, you can't make minors drink, said Kyoko as she crossed her arms and closed her eyes. However, Naruto's voice caught the attention of everyone in the room when they saw him near Shizuka. Well, the Jack Daniels isn't bad at all, do you want some, Shizuka? Naruto said as he took a glass of Jack Daniels and offered another to Shizuka, who accepted it with a smile and toasted Naruto for later romance in one gulp. Naruto, what are you doing? Kyoko asked with her eyes wide open. Huh? Me? Well, I'm having a drink of Jack Daniels, why? Naruto said calmly. Why? You're a minor, you can't drink those kinds of beverages, it's prohibited by the government, but Kyoko quickly shut up when she remembered that small detail and sighed in defeat. Heck, come on Kyoko-sensei, calm down a little and have fun with us, the same with all of you, said Shizuka, who was already a little affected by the alcohol. Sighing, Kyoko nodded and approached the table followed by the other teenagers who remained silent and somewhat hesitant to drink that type of beverage. Shizuka quickly served each of them a drink, in which they all simply stared at the contents inside the glass. Hey, you don't have to drink if you don't want to, we're not forcing you. Well, not in my case, but Shizuka seems a little more interested in you drinking, Naruto said as he took his third sip of Jack Daniels. Rates just looked at him with some disbelief at the fact that he didn't show any kind of reaction when drinking alcohol. But nevertheless, not wanting to be left behind, Nagatoro took his glass and with great willpower, drank it in one gulp. However, a few seconds later, Nagatoro stuck out his tongue with a burning sensation in his throat. Ha, Naruto laughed for the first time in front of everyone present, who had never seen him laugh like that. Looking down at their glasses, they all gulped and then took their glasses and swallowed just like Nagatoro. 3 hours later and 7 empty bottles of Jack Daniels, Smirnoff, Grandpa rum and a very expensive bottle of whiskey. And the sound of a telephone was heard in the room of a calm Ada Wong, who proceeded to pick up the telephone to find out who was calling. Ada moans in the background, remember when you told us to call you cubic when we were intimate, well we forgot, but I already called you, so if you want to come over there's still time. Louder moans. Hangs up, said a noticeably very drunk Shizuka on the other end of the phone. Until she hung up, Ada's room was at first pleasantly silent. But after hearing that news from the very drunk Shizuka, the room was now overwhelmingly silent until Ada placed the phone back on its base, and as quickly as she could muster, she got out of her virginity and headed in the direction of Naruto's room while screaming. "How could they use that?" he shouted as he ran through the hallways. 13 minutes later. Ada forcefully opened the room of her new guests so that suddenly the pure smell of Hex hit her face with the force of a bullet train. Slowly peeking out, Ada heard the moans of the girls more loudly until she finally peeked out completely and noticed Naruto subduing a very sweaty Kyoko while Nagatoro, Geimo and Yashi sensually attached their bodies to Naruto, who continued with his thrusts to Kyoko. "Ada, you're here, come on, join us," said a very naked Miku, Saya, and Yuriko to Ada, who smilingly closed the door behind her while she slowly took off her clothes and locked the door. Chapter 12. It had been 13 days since Naruto and his companions had arrived at the Capcom Corporation facilities, and at this moment we see a calm Naruto and Ada, who were waiting calmly in the elevator that was going down. Naruto was sitting next to Ada as he thought deeply about the events that occurred not long after they arrived at the facility and the changes that such events brought about. Flashback. Getting up with a feeling of pain and satisfaction at the same time, a mistress shivered and stood up with blurred vision. Inwardly she couldn't help but wonder about the slight burning sensation she felt at the bottom of her hips right on her femininity. Rubbing her eyes a little, Yuriko tried to roll to one side to get out of bed when she finally noticed that an arm was around her waist, thus causing Yuriko to follow the path of the arm to a sleeping-looking Naruto. Yuriko's eyes widened as she also noticed that both Naruto and herself were naked next to each other. Yuriko was going to say something in hopes of waking Naruto up when several moans were made known, so looking around she caught sight of all the beds pushed together to create a king-size bed, and in this large bed were all the other girls in a state of undress. Hell, even her daughter was there happily asleep with a smile on her face, until each of them slowly began to wake up with sleepy looks. Yuriko just stood there watching as everyone rubbed their eyes and looked around with confused faces. What happened next was that everyone's faces deepened in confusion and then changed to disbelief and then to panic. What the buck happened? They all shouted in unison except for Ada and Shizuka, who actually had satisfied smiles. End of flashback scene. After that little scene, everyone couldn't hold a fixed gaze with Naruto for more than about 2 seconds. Of course I'll go back and repeat it, except for Ada and Shizuka, who actually acted like they were very kind wives. On the other hand, Yuriko, Saya's mother, was in a severe existential crisis in which she repeated to herself what a bad wife she had been. This lasted for 8 days until the girls finally spoke to her about this incident and that she didn't have to worry since she hadn't done anything wrong. Yuriko tried to refute that it hadn't even been 2 days since her ex-husband had died and she had betrayed him by sleeping with another man. This subject had been very delicate and they didn't know how to tell them that she didn't have to worry since, as she herself had said, her husband had died and therefore her action didn't count as a betrayal. And this was where Shizuka's naturally kind attitude came into play, explaining what the others wanted to tell her, thus managing to calm Yuriko down. Who accepted the explanation. From then on, all the girls began to behave as usual, with the only change being that now they didn't mind giving him a few caresses and kisses here and there. Naruto didn't really complain and simply returned the kisses and caresses. Humming out of his thoughts by the feeling of a weight on his lap, Naruto saw an Ada sitting on him looking at him with a mischievous smile. "You know this elevator is still going to take about 10 minutes, Ada said, pointing out that they were still on the 320th floor. "Oh? And I suppose you have a suggestion to make the most of these 10 minutes, right?" Naruto said as he took Ada's slender hip and pulled her closer to him. "You have no idea," Ada replied, planting a kiss on Naruto, which he returned with ferocity. Then the classic elevator warning sounded as it reached its destination, then its doors slowly opened until Naruto and Ada came out from inside, adjusting their clothes as best they could. "Well, I have to admit it was fun," Naruto declared as he walked next to Ada, who had a satisfied smile on her face, as well as the lipstick smudged on her lips. Once the two dressed up, they began to head to the office of the head of the corporation. Naruto, becoming serious, asked Ada about the reason for her call to a meeting with the boss and his advisors. "So Ada, do you have any idea what this meeting is about?" Naruto asked with curiosity and seriousness, to which Ada also chose to get serious. I was not informed about the objective of your call, but I heard that the meeting is based on something critical that has been happening in the Umbrella Corporation, Ada informed Naruto, who only nodded, and they stood in front of the doors of a room next to the boss's office. Well, let's go in and find out what's going on, Naruto said seriously to Ada, who proceeded to show her access card, which was accepted, causing the doors to open, revealing a long table where Arthur, the head of the corporation, was sitting, and at least 10 other men in elegant suits. However, the atmosphere was so tense that Naruto swore he could have cut himself. We were waiting for you, come and sit down, Arthur said to the newcomers, who nodded and sat down. Okay, let's get started with the meeting, said a random advisor. I held this meeting with the objective of discussing 3 issues, 2 of them very worrying, Arthur began seriously. The first of these is about the creatures that are above us. Over the course of 13 days, these have continued to mutate into creatures that no longer have the typical shape of a human body. They have become faster, more lethal and more dangerous, said Arthur, and then another advisor will speak. And what's the problem with that? I mean, we're safe from them here underground, the advisor said curiously. Actually, it has a lot to do with the second problem, because 3 days ago we lost contact with the 27 spies we had in the Umbrella Corporation, and we only received one last transmission, Arthur said as he started searching for something on his phone, and then played an audio throughout the room. Dear Spy, Shadow screams in the background, something is happening, something very bad, shots in the background. I don't know how it happened, but apparently interference those things see could get into the facilities of the Umbrella Corporate interference. When the audio ended, the room was more tense than usual, because no matter how much they listened, it was obvious what their spy wanted to say. The zombies had evaded the defenses of the Umbrella Corporation and had managed to get in. As you may have already deduced, the zombies managed to enter the Umbrella Corporation, and those things have nothing to prevent them from doing the same to us. However, this is only a deduction, and we do not know if it ended badly, or the Umbrella Corporation was able to neutralize them. That is why our staff is hacking the cameras of the Umbrella facilities. If every person there was killed, then they should not show any resistance, said Arthur, so that at that moment his phone rang and Arthur took it and then typed something, and the room darkened a little, so that then on a wall behind Arthur, a television appeared about the size of the wall. Well, just in time our staff was able to hack the cameras. Now let's see what happened, said Arthur, getting up from in front of the TV and typing confirm on his phone to then show on television several cameras in which the corridors of the Umbrella facilities were shown. Well, these are the recordings of the day everything went to hell at the Umbrella Corporation, said Arthur, while everyone looked at a particular camera, since it focused on a group of about 20 armed guards with vests, helmets and the distinctive emblem of the Umbrella Corporation. Following in other chambers, many more soldiers began to appear. However, everyone kept their eyes on that particular group, who were walking down a corridor in which on each side of the wall, there were at least 8 elevators, giving a total of 16. At that moment the soldiers stopped upon hearing the distinctive sound of the elevators going down until all in unison made the distinctive sound of a bell upon reaching their destination. Shit was the only thing that the one who seemed to be the squad leader said, and at that moment all the elevator doors opened and completely deformed creatures with tentacles, claws, extra limbs, wings, etc. came out of them. The moment these creatures came out, they began to quickly and effectively massacre all the soldiers there. Everyone in the room could not believe what was happening, as in other cameras they began to see more creatures that were destroying each and every one of the inhabitants of the facilities. The recordings lasted about 2 hours of pure carnage until finally there was not a single survivor, leaving nothing but bloody corridors and zombies, if you can still call them that. As you can see, it's official, the Umbrella Corporation has fallen. However, we can't let our guard down, something could happen to us. Alarm, alarm. Arthur was interrupted by the sound of alarms going off throughout the facility. Should everyone grab their weapons and let's get out of here, said Arthur, as India pressed a button under the table, causing the walls to open, revealing a full shelf of weapons and ammunition. Come on Ada, let's arm ourselves, we have to find the others and get out of here, Naruto said to Ada, who nodded and proceeded to take some weapons, but a hand rested on Naruto's shoulder, who turned to look at Arthur, who was watching them with a calm smile. Naruto, you really don't have to worry about that, Arthur said as he gave Naruto some keys. I was actually expecting this, so the only thing I can do right now as a last favor to your parents is this, Arthur said as India pressed another button and an elevator hidden behind a wall was revealed. Come in, this elevator will take you to the surface, where you will find an armored car, and you don't have to worry about your companions. Just after they started heading this way I ordered them to be taken out of here in a helicopter heading for my private island. At this point they should be a good number of miles away, said Arthur. But how am I going to get to that island? Naruto asked in confusion. Ada knows where it is, and right now there's a plane at the airport with some of my men there. At first, they were supposed to leave the supplies there, but they were given new orders to wait for them to take a flight to another airport near my private island. There they'll take a helicopter to get to the island. Now go, there's no time. Arthur said to Naruto, who nodded and entered the elevator followed by Ada. The doors closed and the elevator began to ascend. Chapter 13. Inside the dimly lit elevator, Ada and Naruto were silently processing everything that had happened, since from one moment to the next, everything had become chaos, going from being calm, watching the Umbrella Corporation security cameras to their own base being attacked by those creatures that could now hardly be described. They had been riding in the elevator for about 17 minutes, and neither of them said a single word, just letting the tension roam freely around them, until Naruto finally, unable to bear the tension, spoke up. "And who is taking the girls to said private island?" Naruto finally asked Ada, who said nothing for a moment until she took a cell phone out of her pocket and searched for something until she found it and proceeded to inform Naruto. "The girls are currently being taken in a helicopter and the pilot is actually a friend of Shizuka's. Her name is Rika Minami." Ada finished informing Naruto, who also raised an eyebrow. "Is she a helicopter pilot?" "Shizuka didn't mention that," Naruto said curiously, to which Ada nodded. "She is not a pilot, but she has enough knowledge to be able to fly one of those. She is actually a sniper," Ada said calmly, to which Naruto nodded and asked again. "Do you have all that information on that cell phone?" Naruto asked, to which Ada nodded. "Can you tell how many people are in the facility?" Naruto asked calmly as he looked ahead. Ada simply nodded and slowly typed on her cell phone until a number appeared in the middle of the screen, showing a 9 that quickly changed to 7, followed by becoming 4 to later change to 1 and end with a solid 0. This caused Ada to stare at that 0 that remained there undisturbed. "So none, huh?" Naruto said, also seeing the worthless number on the cell phone screen. "Well, maybe Alan is still further out of the facility," Naruto suggested, to which Ada nodded and searched again until now a new number appeared, causing Ada to let out a small laugh without grace. How curious that they only found 37 soldiers alive," said Ada, drawing Naruto's attention, who already had an idea of why, but still asked. "And what's curious?" Naruto asked. "Let it be believed that we had around 1759 soldiers outside the facilities, of which 1722 of them were searching for survivors and 35 were transporting supplies by air. The curious thing is that without counting me and Rika, the only ones who were able to survive were those who stayed in the air," Ada finished saying to Naruto, who also looked up and saw the elevator floor marker that indicated that they were less than 4 floors away from reaching the surface. "So now outside has become more dangerous these days that we stayed underground," sighed Naruto as he removed the safety from his rifle and aimed at the elevator door, preparing for anything that was outside this cubicle, now that there were possibly no humans left apart from the 35 soldiers that were going to be waiting for them at the airport 15 minutes away. Shizuka's friend Rika, Alice, Pashi, and of course let's not forget their At this point Naruto stopped for a moment thinking. "Wait a minute, the girls and I, now that we had a full night of hex, but that was caused by the alcohol. Well, what does it matter when I meet them again, I'll ask them, and that's it," Naruto thought calmly as the door opened and quickly Ada and Naruto went on high alert, with the two slowly leaving while aiming with their respective rifles. Inspecting the place further, Naruto noticed that they were in a parking building, if the few cars that were parked were anything to go by. Looking around, Naruto stopped when he realized that Arthur never told him what kind of car they had been given to take them to the airport, so to satisfy his curiosity, Naruto asked Ada. Ada, by any chance do you know which car Arthur left us to go?" Naruto asked, without stopping looking around. Ada took out her cell phone and searched for a radar that indicated where the corporation's cars were, which had a tracker. A green dot appeared on the radar. Ada guided the way to the second floor on a curve in which a single vehicle was parked in the middle of the place. "This has to be a joke," said Ada, looking at the car as she took a step forward. However, Naruto's hand quickly stopped her in her tracks. "Sorry Ada, but this time you're not going to drive. This time I'm going to be the one driving this beauty," said Naruto, walking decisively to the vehicle, which was a McLaren MP412 with armor, sentry, all-terrain tires, and who knows what other improvements they had put on this beast. What? Wait, Naruto, do you even know how to drive this car?" Ada asked, trying to convince Naruto to let her drive. Naruto didn't even give a hint of stopping. "Ada, are you seriously asking me that? I'm sure they had a file on my life, so I'm sure you know I've never driven a vehicle before," Naruto said, causing Ada to be about to retort, but Naruto didn't let her as he continued talking. "However, I've played every gamer simulation in the world, and that includes racing simulations," Naruto stated confidently as he opened the car door and proceeded to sit down. "And once again I tell you that just by playing video games does not make you an expert in real life," replied Ada, to which Naruto looked at her as if she was crazy. "And once again I remind you that it's thanks to these games that I'm so good at killing zombies, or how do you think I was able to kill zombies without even having held a gun before?" Naruto said to Ada, who couldn't replicate that fact since it was true. Naruto had shown mastery with weapons and almost perfect aim, so sighing, Ada simply turned around and got in the passenger side with a pout. NT, this is for a reader who commented that she couldn't imagine Ada with a pout. Greetings. That's how I like it, very obedient my godmother Ada, said Naruto, trying to tell a joke while stealing a kiss from Ada and then taking the keys that were in the middle of the two and quickly inserting them into the entrance next to the rudder and then pressing the power button, causing the beast to roar. Oh my god, do you hear that? That's power, Naruto said, putting it in first gear and then hitting the accelerator. The tires started to spin, leaving tire marks behind. Going down to the ground floor, Naruto skidded and then exited through the main entrance with another skid, staying there for a moment until Naruto smiled widely and accelerated again towards the airport. Ada, on the other hand, was so scared that Indira couldn't sit any longer in the chair for fear of being a passenger with her 17-year-old teenage lover, who was driving at 130 km per hour, while encouraging her to sit on his lap to make the experience more exciting. Of course, Ada refused to move from her seat, so Naruto simply stopped insisting and just kept driving until his gaze shifted to a lever that was next to the handbrake. This lever was very different from the handbrake since the lever had a joystick. What's this? Naruto wondered curiously, taking the lever and pulling it forward. This quickly made a small screen pop out from behind the wheel, and then it turned on and showed a camera that was above the car. Raising an eyebrow, Naruto lowered the speed pat focus a little more on what was in front of him. Using the joystick, Naruto controlled the camera until he felt that just below the joystick there was a button, so pressing the button with curiosity, Naruto made the turret that was above the car release a few bullets. Naruto quickly stopped pressing the button in surprise when he realized that this was to control the sentry above them. This is amazing, Naruto said with a wide smile on his face, but for the moment he wouldn't use it, so he put the lever in its place and continued on his way towards the airport. 8 minutes later. Naruto and Ada had already arrived at the airport and were now entering directly onto the runway, so looking everywhere Naruto and Ada didn't see any plane anywhere. How strange, they're supposed to be here already, said Ada as she tried to communicate with the plane. This is Raven Smith, they answered Ada's call, which she quickly responded to. We usually find those who need to be rescued, where are they? Ada asked, and for a moment they remained silent until a new voice, this time female, answered. Hello Ada, said the voice to Ada, who smiled upon recognizing the voice. Hi, how are you, Killer Bee? Ada said to the voice that let out a small laugh. NT, just to clarify, this is not a female version of the Killer Bee from the Naruto universe. I'm fine, but let's put that aside and don't worry, I was right on top of you, said the voice, and just at that moment a tremor began to be felt until just above them, a gigantic plane passed which landed but did not stop accelerating. What are you waiting for? We're not going to stop and wait for you, you have to get on now, said the voice, while at that moment the rear door of the plane began to lower, leaving a ramp for them to get on. This was the signal for Naruto to accelerate strongly towards the plane. By the way Ada, is he with you? The voice asked this time, a slight nervousness was noted in his voice. Ada just smiled and answered. If he's here with me, and believe me, he'll be happy to see you, Ada said to the voice that let out a small sigh of relief. Naruto hadn't really paid attention to the last thing that was said, because on the left side in the distance they began to notice how a lot of creatures began to quickly come out in their direction. Shit, Naruto cursed as he once again took the lever that controlled the turret and pointed it at the large number of creatures to then begin firing high-caliber ammunition at the creatures that could do little with the shrapnel that mutilated and pierced their deformed bodies. Accelerating a little more, Naruto finally went up the ramp, thus being right in a space designated for the car. Then the plane's door began to close. Hey, Naruto and Ada laughed as the plane began to rise. Turning off the car, Naruto and Ada finally got out, and with some agitation, Naruto looked around until the same voice that was heard through Ada's cell phone was present. I'm glad you're safe, said the voice as someone came out from behind one of the many large boxes of supplies with a parachute. Naruto and Ada turned to see said person, and at that moment that the body of said person could be completely seen, Naruto couldn't help but open his eyes wide as he instantly recognized the girl in front of him. Hammy, it's you, Naruto said in shock, seeing a blonde who had long hair that was divided into two long braids, and on her forehead two thin bangs stood out. Her face was a mix of beautiful with a touch of rude, thanks to a scar on her right cheek. She wore camouflage pants with military boots. On top, she had a green sleeveless shirt that only covered part of her breasts, leaving her toned stomach uncovered. Silence was all that could be felt in a long 20 seconds in which no one said anything. Only the sound of the turbines working to move the plane could be heard until finally Naruto began to take a few steps until he was in front of Kami, who stared at Naruto, who, without waiting for Kami to say anything, hugged her gently. Kami without hesitation quickly returned the hug with affection since she was eagerly awaiting this moment. I missed you, Kami said in Naruto's ear, who smiled. I missed you a lot too. Chapter 14. I missed you too, Naruto's voice was heard in Kami's ear, who was still firmly hugging Naruto, who also reciprocated the hug. Well, the reunion is very sweet and all, but we have things to discuss, said Ada, while crossing her arms and looking at them with a somewhat frowning face. Huh? Ada, are you jealous? Kami commented with a flat face that made Ada and Naruto nervous, and he slowly started to sweat. Why are you jealous? Kami asked, staring at Ada, who looked away so as not to feel so self-conscious. Naruto, you know something, right? Kami said almost as an affirmation, causing Naruto's calm side to fail, but Naruto answered the question nonetheless. Well, Kami, Ada he tried to invent some excuse to get him out of this mess, however he was interrupted by Kami, who spoke with a somewhat annoyed tone. You did it, didn't you? Kami said with a glare. Naruto and Ada quickly tried to deny Kami's statement, however, her glare stopped them in their tracks, and they simply lowered their heads in defeat. Naruto, I really can't believe you did it with Ada, my friend, Kami said as she looked at the now kneeling Naruto and Ada, who looked away, causing a rock to appear on Kami's forehead, which dropped her killing intent. Weren't you the only one? Kami asked, causing Naruto to twitch and look away more, and another tick appeared on Kami's forehead. How many were there? Was the only thing, Kami asked Naruto, who was trembling slightly from the fear he had of his childhood crush. How many? Kami demanded again to Naruto, who nodded and answered. 11 if we count Ada, Naruto whispered, trying to make himself as small as possible due to Kami's glare. 11. Kami shouted in shock, wondering how many women Naruto had slept with. Please tell me it wasn't at least before all this happened, Kami said, palm covering her eyes. Calm down, Kami, Naruto actually had an orgy 13 days ago, Ada said with a lustful smile at the memory of that day. You know, I don't know whether to be surprised or angry, Kami said, letting her shoulders drop. Hey, you have to understand, I mean, who wants to die without having tasted the carnal pleasures of life, Ada said, so Kami would understand. No, you're just a pervert who slept with my boyfriend, Kami said angrily, but with a tinge of pink on her cheeks. Oh? So your boyfriend, Ada said with a smile. Well, when we get to the rendezvous point the others are going to have to pair up with any of the soldiers who are on this plane, because you're not crazy to believe that I'm going to share Naruto, Kami said decisively while crossing her arms. Well, you're going to have to discuss that with all of them, since they are very attached to Naruto, said Ada with a smile. I'm not even going to argue with it because that's already a fact, Kami said angrily. Well, let's leave that topic for another time, and how about you tell us the flight plan, Ada said, expertly changing the subject. Well, actually, things have gotten quite complicated, and it turns out that the airport we were going to land at was already completely infested by those things, so we can't land there, Kami reported. Shit, what happened to the other airports? Naruto asked this time. You were also infested, and even if we wanted to go we couldn't since we only have fuel to get to the airport we had in mind or to the private island, said Kami. In short, we're screwed, said Ada. Not really, since everything is messed up now, we're taking extreme measures in the matter, so now we change course and head to the private island, Kami said with a smile. But what's the point of going if there's no runway to land on? Ada said as if it were obvious. We'll jump, right? Naruto said, to which Kami smiled and nodded. That's right, when we're right above the island we'll drop all the supplies, and then we'll all jump out of the plane with parachutes to fall to the island, Kami said her plan, which was understandable, since with all the countries destroyed, there was nowhere to go. Alarm. The alarm on 2 cell phones rang, which were taken by Kami and Ada, who saw their content and with a sigh turned off the cell phone. What's wrong? Naruto asked, to which Ada replied. It's just that the president of the United States just died, now add that to the presidents of Japan, Germany, Korea, Canada, Russia, China, Holland, Nigeria, Norway, Saudi Arabia, Mexico, El Salvador, Chile, Brazil, etc. They all died, said Ada with a sigh, knowing what was coming next. Naruto just stayed thoughtful for a moment until his eyes opened in shock. Wait, that means he didn't finish saying as he quickly looked out one of the plane's windows with Kami and Ada, just in time to see how large amounts of projectiles began to take off from random locations all over the country of Japan. Some were even coming out from under the sea. It was quite a visual spectacle to see all those missiles taking off and going in random directions. That's right, before each president died, they placed the key in a briefcase that controls every nuclear weapon in their country and placed a code that remains on standby for the other presidents to do the same. This protocol is carried out in a high-risk situation like this, said Ada, watching each missile move away. And once all the presidents do that action, it will cause every nuclear missile in every country in the world to be fired at the same time, thus causing an imminent destruction of the world, he finished explaining, so that just at that moment nuclear missiles began to fall on Japan. I know some countries I mentioned don't have nuclear weapons, but let's pretend in this fic that they do. Naruto would swear that if he had a satellite view he would be able to capture how the flashes of different explosions were present throughout the world, and in reality Naruto was not far from the truth, since if they could see from a satellite, they would be able to see as if they were shooting stars traveling around the world to impact in random parts of the planet. But coming out of his thoughts, Naruto, along with Ada and Kami, saw an impact very close to them, generating a shock wave causing turbulence in the plane. And yet there they stood, watching the destruction of what had once been their home, now reduced to nothing more and nothing less than a landscape riddled with craters, leaving not a single trace that there had ever been a civilization there. 4 hours later. The explosion stopped resonating 7 minutes ago, and at this moment Naruto was sitting quietly in one of the many seats on the plane. Next to him was a very sleeping Ada. Kami on the other hand went to the cabin to ask how much longer until they arrived. Turning his gaze, Naruto saw Kami approaching them with her typical calm face, just like Naruto, and then continued to speak. Well, the pilot says that in 1 hour and 20 minutes, we will be arriving, Kami informed as she sat next to Naruto and gave a small yawn that made Naruto smile. So stoic Kami can't handle sleep, Naruto said mockingly, causing Kami to pout and lean on Naruto's shoulder and start sleeping. With nothing else to do, Naruto took out his cell phone and then set an alarm for 1 hour to have 20 minutes to get ready. Then he began to close his eyes and enjoy this little moment of tranquility that he had. And so it was, an hour passed in complete tranquility in which the three slept peacefully without any kind of interruption, until finally Naruto's cell phone began to vibrate, causing him to wake up and see the time. It's been an hour, Naruto said distractedly, and then began to wake up his two companions. Hey guys, hit screams, huh? Is that coming from the cockpit? Naruto wondered as he watched the other inhabitants of the plane begin to wake up with the same feeling of confusion, until one gathered his courage and climbed some stairs that were on a propane tank. Taking the cockpit door, the soldier opened it slowly, and the first thing he saw was the mutilated corpse of the two pilots who were lying lifeless in their positions. Then he saw that on the ground behind one of the positions there was a hole where you could feel the air coming in. What the buck? Was the only thing he could ask himself, since not even a second later he was pushed back by a human-sized creature. But the strange thing about this was that apart from having a deformed complexion, the creature had wings. That's right, the bucking creature had bucking wings. You have to be bucking kidding me, said Naruto as he quickly grabbed a rifle, being followed by the girls and some soldiers who were actually already shooting at him. Shit, Ada, can you see if we're over the island yet? Naruto asked, to which Ada quickly looked out the window and could see the island in sight. If I see it, I estimate that we will be over it in 5 minutes, said Ada, to which Naruto nodded and saw how the creature evaded all the soldiers' shots while killing one or another. Kami, I need you to open the hatch to launch the supplies, Naruto said to Kami, who nodded and went to do what was asked, while Naruto began to distract the creature, which he continued to dodge while throwing a body at Naruto, who couldn't dodge in time. Damn, these things are really pissing me off, Naruto said, watching as the creature lunged at him and tried to pierce him with a kind of stinger sticking out like a tail from the lower part of its back. However, the body of the dead soldier that had enzyme cushioned a few centimeters from Naruto's stomach, so turning Naruto's body to the side unbalanced the creature to then see that behind Naruto, there was a soldier aiming at the creature. Come on, shoot. Naruto shouted, to which the soldier nodded and fired with his rifle, giving him a lot of bullets. However, not everything can have a happy ending, since 3 bullets passed by and hit the propane tank that was at the bottom, causing it to explode and blow up the entire cabin of the plane. Shit, this can't get any worse, Naruto thought with annoyance as he held tightly onto one of the iron chairs while he watched the unfortunate soldier being dragged through the air. At that moment, the supplies began to slide and fall from the burning plane, and he saw Ada and Kami in the background trying to tell him something. What? Naruto asked in confusion. Hold on, boxes, parachutes, they both shouted. However, Naruto didn't understand almost anything, but Naruto had to let go because if he didn't, one of the big boxes was going to crush him. So here I was up in the air without a parachute to suffer a painless death, or so I hoped, all because of that stupid creature who thought it was a good idea to kill the pilots and try to kill us. Seeing the island, Naruto sighed, knowing that at the speed he was going it wouldn't matter if he fell into a tree, he would still die. Moreover, Naruto knew that it would be more painful to fall into a tree, but through his vision he crossed what Naruto recognized as McLair's that Ada and he used to get to the airport. On the roof of this, there was a kind of bag which Naruto recognized as a parachute for packages. That's it. Naruto said, leaning down to get closer to the vehicle before they reached the surface of the water. With his heart beating 1,000 times a second, Naruto hit the vehicle holding on by little, so that he quickly grabbed the parachute rope and pulled hard, causing the parachute to open and abruptly cushion the fall of the vehicle next to Naruto, who opening the car door, Naruto got in and sat down agitatedly. Fucking give me a break. Final chapter. Lying on the front of a McLaren was a shaken Naruto with his heart in his throat, while pieces of metal and other things fell around him, engulfed in flames. "Ugh, I really just want a bed and to lie down," Naruto said tiredly as he turned his gaze to his right to see someone with a parachute. Focusing his sight to see who it was, Naruto finally noticed that it was one of the soldiers from the plane. "Oh, I survived," but Naruto didn't finish what he had planned to say because one of the plane's turbines fell on the soldier's parachute, causing an unmanly scream from the surely dead soldier. Naruto on the other hand just stood there looking at the place where the man had been and then, in panic, looked up at the sky to see if something was going to fall on him too. "Shit, that was unexpected," Naruto said to himself as he tried to see if any object could fall on him. However, he didn't see anything, so he relaxed. Now looking down, Naruto tried to see the house that was supposed to be on this island. Then Naruto saw it. Damn, Naruto would have to be blind not to see it, since what was there was not a house, it was a damn 4-story mansion. "Well, at least we don't have to worry about the rooms," Naruto said to himself, now calculating how far away from the mansion he was going to fall. "Well, I don't think I'm going to fall that far," said Naruto, and then heard the voices of his two companions calling him. "Hey, Naruto." Kami's voice shouted, accompanied by Ada's. "Kami, Ada, I'm here," Naruto replied to the girls who maneuvered the parachutes to keep him by Naruto's side. "Thank God you're okay," Ada said with an audible sigh. "Well, I could barely hold on to the car," said Naruto, seeing that they were about to fall to the surface. Girls, do you know if this can be maneuvered in any way?" Naruto asked, receiving a denial from the girls. But the others in the mansion. "What just happened?" they all asked in unison. The reason? Well, it was very simple, since they had all witnessed the plane arriving at the island, only to see it explode out of nowhere and everything go to shit. "Well girls, I don't want to alarm you or anything like that, but that was the plane where your lover M and Ada were coming," commented an uncomfortable Rika who didn't know how to handle this topic. The atmosphere became somewhat heavy, with no one speaking and just watching the supply boxes parachute down. "Wait, look there, 2 people are parachuting." Nagatoro pointed to the 2 people who were parachuting not far from the mansion, next to what everyone thought was a car, but for the moment they didn't wonder why they would send a car to the island. "Shall we look for them?" I asked and laughed at the others who nodded, but before they left they heard the engine of what they thought was the car falling next to the 2 people. With Naruto, Kami and Ada. These had fallen in a small field and just a few meters to the side of a road where you could drive without problems. "You know, I don't know if I'm very lucky or very unlucky," Naruto commented calmly. "Hey." Another person shouted in a parachute, drawing the attention of the trio who looked at said person. "Oh look, one soldier survived, it seems that at least the others will be able to keep him," Ada said sarcastically to a smiling Kami, who nodded until the man landed in a tree, and when he was about to unbuckle his parachute, he fell on a piece of metal embedded in the ground, effectively impaling himself in the chest, leaving him dead. Silence. Silence was all that abounded in the forest when I witnessed such a scene of stupidity. I mean, the guy didn't notice the giant piece of metal beneath him, but hey, that's life. "Fine, I take it back," Ada said with a blank look, alongside an equally impassive Kami who simply sighed, then heard the car start. "Well? Are we going?" Naruto asked, to which the 2 nodded and got into the car with Ada in the passenger seat and Kami on Naruto's lap, since there were only 2 seats. Nodding, Naruto once again started the car in the direction of the mansion. "Well, Kami, now that Naruto is indeed the last man in the world, do you really think you're going to keep him for yourself?" Ada asked Kami, who frowned at what Ada said, but she had to sigh in annoyance. "Okay, I guess I can't do anything about this." Kami finally gave up as she relaxed on Naruto's lap, who was sweating from the small but brief discussion the 2 of them had. Well, how about I put on some music?" Naruto suggested as he connected his cell phone to the radio's Bluetooth and then searched for a specific song. "I always imagine putting on this music while driving at sunset," said Naruto as he put on the music. "I'll leave you for a minute to enjoy the music and a mental image of what such a scene would look like." "So what happened next?" a shrill voice asked, causing the scene to slowly fade away to show a group of 6 girls sitting in front of a man in his 20s on a balcony overlooking the sunset. "Haha, well then I met your mothers and what we did after that is not suitable for you to know yet," said Naruto, while he looked at his daughters who looked at him with a pout. "I see they keep pressuring you to tell them that story," commented a voice behind Naruto as he wrapped his hands around Naruto's neck, who smiled and also looked to see Kami in a loose dress. "You know you should be resting, after all you're still pregnant," Naruto said to Kami, who smiled at him and moved to Naruto's side and then gave him a quick kiss. "I'm fine," said Kami. "If you leave her, it's obvious she's fine," said another voice, now showing another woman with purple hair, an enviable body and a permanent tan. "You can imagine her with fewer breasts, or if you prefer leave her like that, since I personally don't like them to have so many breasts." "Mom," said one of the girls, hugging the purple-haired girl who happily hugged her. "Why don't you go with your sister Alice so they can play together?" Rika suggested to the girls, who happily nodded and went out in search of their older sister. And as for you, why don't you join us in bed? Rika said to Naruto, who smiled. That's a good idea, Kami agreed, slowly standing up and taking Naruto's hand, leading him to the room. Geez, you guys have no choice, said Naruto, letting himself be carried away by the girls. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.